Wilson takes off. Then the freshman gets the corner. It's a foot race. Knocked out at the one. Now you see the talents.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Toafili in motion. Got a man down the sidelines. It's him, Toafili, and he is off. One man to beat, cuts it back, and brought down to the 20-yard line by Sheridan Jones. They're going to say touchdown. He landed on somebody. Toafili with a magic act, and they're calling it a touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Edwards with the lane. Donovan Edwards down the sideline. Gets past Ransom. Donovan Edwards. Touchdown, Michigan, the Don.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Looking for an option to the end zone. He goes. Touchdown, Canes. Jacoby George.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
This time in the shotgun. Play fake. Allard to the end zone. Touchdown. Penn State. Khalil Dinkins.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
They're going to go Wildcat and snap it directly to Mappa. He tries the right-hand side. He finds Painter. That's a Clemson touchdown.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Here we go, 365 Sports. Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody. Whenever you join us during the day, whether it is the triple option 1 until 2 or what we do 3 to 6 in the afternoon. And Craig earlier with Grayson when it comes to the Bearcast on Tuesdays, usually around lunchtime. A lot of things to get to. The Big Ten Media Days have kicked off. Some interesting notes, nuggets, etc. We have 2 college football players joining us today. North Texas cornerback Ridge Tahada, as they're a part of the Media Days with North Texas. Also, Elijah Roberts yesterday at the ACC Media Days, defensive end, joins us. Plus Joshua Perry of the Big Ten Network, Jana Bardall of theathletic.com. Also today, we have John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist, who today was working down at the Texas High School Coaches Association with a roundtable with a bunch of coaches. And tomorrow in Waco with the Joe Greene luncheon at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Here is the entrance to the Lucas Oil Stadium. Big Ten Media Days. They're bigger too. Most everybody is. There are all the logos. And for some reason, when I saw that, I thought like there's 2 different Rubik's Cubes on the left side and also on the right side.
That might be one of their little, giveaways. It's a Rubik's Cube for the Big Ten. No, it is very weird to see, like when you see all the logos together every time. When you see those new 4 schools in there, you're like, it doesn't make sense in my brain. But I know it is. Like I said at Big 12 Media Days, I saw those Colorado cheerleaders and I went, what are they doing here?
I thought it was Arizona
State. Yeah, Arizona State cheerleaders. It all runs together. But Arizona State cheerleaders, well, that's a coincidence that they're in town at the same time.
Yeah, you can get lost up in that, Craig. You mentioned that the other day, that just the bottom line, when you see all the names of a preseason polls, there's so many damn teams.
Yeah, there is. And so the Big Ten is big as there is, and we'll see if they're even bigger in the years to come, as we talked a bit about yesterday. And I don't think we talked so much about that today at their media days as opposed to the way the ACC opened up theirs yesterday. But it's interesting to see that. I mean, it's interesting to see the logos. I've kind of seen enough graphics at this point that that's not really all that different than, I've become accustomed to, whereas you posted that 6 months ago, it still looked pretty weird. But now we've seen so many preview magazines and so many polls and all-conference preseason teams and things that have Oregon mixed in with Ohio State and Washington mixed in with Michigan and so on and so forth, that I'm kind of getting used to it now. I don't think it's really going to hit, though, until we actually see them playing conference games and seeing the matchups out west or up north that are just not supposed to be conference games, but they are now because that's the universe we live in with college football. So I think that's really when it's going to hit. I think when you see Texas and Oklahoma take the field with the SEC logo, but then like they're actually playing like Ole Miss or somebody, I think that's when it will really hit. Same for the Big 12. But, it's the ACC's turn still, although – I don't know how much interest there is in them outside of realignment, honestly, because it feels like I haven't heard anything from that today.
It's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, and then Big Ten Media Days, we'll dive into that as well, but I think pretty steady for the most part, not too much in terms of chaos or people running around with crazy topics to discuss.
I will. We've got a lot of different nuggets and stories and topics to get to. I will be the one because I'll be the one that when on a Saturday afternoon I'm going to be watching Washington against, let's just say, Michigan. And I'm going to go, man, these are the kind of great college games, the non-conference games that I like to watch. And realize then that I'm not very smart because of the fact that they're a part of the same conference.
Well, that's the whole idea.
No, I know.
To have those games.
I agree. Hopefully we'll get more of them, maybe even 30, 40% more of them, and hope that continues. Now, Oregon. I love the Ducks. I think they're cool. I've never not liked them except for the terrible call on the onside kick against Oklahoma several years ago.
Garbage call, still one of the worst calls in college football history.
How cute is this?
I'm serious.
Oregon with the big inflatable duck in the city of Indianapolis. Welcome to the Big Ten, and Big Ten, welcome to us.
Can you ride on that thing, or is it just?
I don't know. I don't know. You're waiting. I saw somebody come up with a meme that like they're waiting for Godzilla.
Well, I saw Godzilla, about to fight the duck.
Who would win?
Oh, Godzilla. Here's the thing. Godzilla, and look, I've seen this. They've done movies to varying levels of success and quality. I just saw him.
Man, when I was a kid,
Godzilla
was scary as good. And I lived in Japan, and you saw that all the time on a lot of their shows that they had.
Yeah, no, Godzilla would tear him up.
Yeah. All right, so Oregon saying, hey, we're glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm serious about that Alan Patrick call from years ago. I'm still watch that if you haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst calls ever.
It
was
makes
Pac-12
no sense.
officiating at its absolute, finest, I guess, if you want to say that. But that one still irks me because that was a big win that had clear replay review angles, and they still somehow ruled against two different ways that was a wrong call. But I'm over it, right? Clearly.
No, you're not.
No, that's just one of those where you believe in betting, you believe that the games are rigged. It was that ridiculous. But regardless of that, I don't hold a grudge against Oregon. They're a cool program. I mean, the Nike Association obviously has set them apart from a lot of their brethren and made them pretty unique. And I think a big part of that is not just the uniforms, but in line with that is just the creativity and the coming up with outside-the-box ideas and just doing things a little bit differently and unique to Oregon. And I think that's a good example right there of that. I mean, the big rubber ducky in the middle of, the river, I guess.
Yep.
Then, that's not something that you'd have probably seen anybody else come up with. But they're unique and creative, and that's certainly a unique and creative way to welcome themselves into Big Ten Media Days. So I think that's pretty neat. Obviously, they're getting a lot of marketing play off that because it's going around social media quite a bit. And, kudos to whoever came up with that idea. I think that's pretty cool, and they've certainly made their mark early on Big Ten Media Days here in their first go-round.
Couple of 3 notes from Big Ten Media Days from other writers. Brett McMurphy, when Ryan Day was asked about his new offensive coordinator, longtime head coach Chip Kelly with the NFL, UCLA, and, of course, at Oregon, I trust Chip with my life.
I would if he's my offensive coordinator. I think he's a little great. I mean, look, head coaching wise, I think clearly, and you could even hear him talking about it when he made that brilliant plan for the postseason about what they should do. He's frustrated with being a head coach, but he's still got a lot to give in the offensive innovator department because that's what he is. I don't think he's lost a step there. I mean, even watching UCLA the last couple of years, when he's got the dudes, his offense hums. And so, I would absolutely expect the offense at Ohio State to take a bump up just because of Chip Kelly. Even if I mean, whoever the quarterback is, even if it's not Will Howard, they'll do well and they'll produce because that's what Chip Kelly pretty much does.
So the ball was clearly touched before it went 10 yards. Alan Patrick recovers it, and it cost him a chance in the national championship game.
Dundee's just said, and he's an OU fan, with an SEC logo next to his name, let's not forget about the tip pass.
Oh, that was also in that
game. Was called pass interference.
Yeah, that's overlooked because of what happened with the absolutely ridiculous onside kick call. So, yeah, Dundee's knows. You know, that's one of the most garbage, ridiculous calls
we don't talk
ever.
About officiating on these.
So what were we talking about? Sorry, I got to get all that out of my system.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah, no, I think that's what you have to say. His job's somewhat in Chip Kelly's hands, so you better trust him like, you know, he's a loved one. You better trust him with all your heart and soul because
basically what he said. Yeah.
That's the hire that you made, not to save your job, but to lessen the heat, lessen some of the pressure on you. Certainly lessen your plate, right? I mean, he's the guy that's sitting there working so much with the offense. Now he takes a little bit of that load more off of his plate and hands it to a guy who, I mean, who would you pick above Chip Kelly? If you're saying, hey, we have to ensure our offense is better, we have to ensure our quarterback plays better. We've got arguably the greatest set of athletes at receiver and running back and so on and so forth. Like, all we need is the mind to put it all together. Are there many names that you're picking above Chip Kelly?
As far as any coach, if they're head coaches or not.
That needs the offense to work. Yeah,
possibly Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah. I mean, there's like those handful of guys, but Chip Kelly's right in that handful, and I think it was a inspired hire. I also think it's a crucial hire that comes with a lot of pressure for both guys because I think Chip knows that some of Ryan Day's heat lies on him.
Yep.
But I think that'll be good for Ohio State in the long run. And, that's what you hope you would hear if you're a Buckeyes fan, is that they trust each other and that they have each other's backs and that they're, ready to go to war with one another because there's a lot of big expectations for Ohio State this year. I mean, they might be the most talked about team in the country this preseason. I feel like I've heard about Georgia. I know Carson Beck's dating one of the Cavender twins now. I saw that headline yesterday, like on TMZ or something. But I was like, man, that and the speeding arrests are like the highlights of my Georgia offseason intake, I think, at this point.
It's a highlight of Carson Beck's, too.
Yeah. The Alabama side of things is the changeover at coach, which you expect there to be a bit of a interruption of sorts there. It's not just going to be necessarily smooth sailing. Maybe it is, and if so, then Kalen DeBoer is really that dude. But just saying that you're hearing about a lot of changes and just things maybe being status quo, whereas I think with Ohio State, like, you're hearing them really rev this thing up for what they have on paper to be a playoff or bust type of year. And even if it was a 14 playoff, it'd be a playoff or bust type year. So, yeah, they're getting a lot of national championship talk, and I think Chip Kelly and obviously Will Howard have a lot to do with that, along with, Quinshon Judkins and the rest of what they were able to do this offseason.
All right, Rutgers is a team that's played better. Greg Schiano is back there, has been there now for a little bit more of an extended time. It's not like he just returned to Rutgers. Brett McMurphy with this nugget. Of all the teams in the Big Ten, Rutgers is the only team that does not face any of the league's predicted top 5 teams. They don't play Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, or Iowa.
Good reason for them to be voted 9th by Cleveland.com as well. They were 9th, 8th. They were in the top 10.
Nebraska was 8. Believe me, I remember.
It's burned in your brain.
Yeah,
they were 9th in the poll, which is usually about 7 spots higher than they're picked. And look, Greg Schiano breathed life into them last season. So without having to play those teams, yeah, you would think that you've got a great shot at finishing in the top 10 of an 18-team league.
Yeah, I think being where they are, despite the schedule, that's just a product of being an 18-team league. Again, it's like, where do teams go after a while? Like, where do you place them? And you got so many that somebody's got to be 8, 9, 10. That doesn't mean they're a bad team, though. It just means that they're not Michigan or Oregon or Ohio State or any other number of schools. But I could see Rutgers being higher than that. They got some NFL talent. They were much better last year, and I think Greg Schiano, he just has a magic touch with that program, no? I mean, like, it's just, he knows how to run that program, and he knows how to run it well, and I think that, the momentum from last year is something that can certainly carry over. That was their first winning season in, 10 years that they just experienced.
Was he there the last time?
I don't know that timeline as well. He's been
around a few other places, but yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that. I don't memorize that. I don't have that timeline memorized. But, yeah, I mean, they had a good season last year, and they have a lot of moves they've made to make you think that they can have another good season. So build off of that and see where it takes you. It's just a very crowded field for Rutgers. That's the main thing is for teams like that, and that's most of the teams in the Big Ten. Even your best years, you're not just getting past Ohio State and Michigan, but Iowa and Wisconsin, and you're familiar with them as well. But Minnesota jumps up and is good, on occasion or whatever. But then, now also throw in USC and Oregon and Washington, and it's just going to be crazy to watch how that unfolds.
They were 11-2 in 2006. Greg Schiano was in his fifth year of what was a long tenure until 2011. They had some good runs. They won when he was at Rutgers, 2-1-5, 4-7, 11, 8 wins, 9 wins, 4 wins, 9 wins, 9 wins. And I think that was it. Maybe one more 9-win was with Kyle Flood, but he had a good run there. You're right. He has a special touch with that. Wisconsin is going to start selling alcohol at Camp Randall Stadium. This is one of the biggest, loudest stadiums. It doesn't get put in that category like some of the others around the country, but offering beer, wine, and prepackaged alcoholic products like hard seltzers. Badgers will now, they have is it jump around time or whatever they do? Mm-hmm. I don't want to say the jump house because that's taken.
No,
it's
the bounce house. No.
It's bounce house, excuse me. But they will have now alcohol for Wisconsin football games.
And they're already sold out.
Yeah.
Before the first game, I promise you, they're sold out.
Raise your hand if you figured that Wisconsin already did all this. Yeah, I already thought that they were all liquored up. I mean, they probably still were, just was out in the parking lot. But I figured they already had this rolling. So now that they have this available in the stands, and shoot, that's going to go up another notch, you would think.
Well, it will. I don't know this because it's not mentioned, but considering that Miller is in Milwaukee, I would say that that's probably the beer partner that they're going to have for the stadium.
You mean Emery's Busch is not going to be a part of that?
No, it is not. So Miller is going to be out there. I would assume that they're going to be I guess it's Miller Coors now, so they're going to be a Miller place. But I promise you that there is an executive that walked into his boss and went, Camp Randall.
Yeah.
I will see you in Gestad this year, sir, with my bonus.
Yeah, you're right. I thought, thinking about it, Wisconsin would have already had that done, and they did. They just didn't do it, which was officially. They were inside people's boots and their hats and whatever else, purses that got able to sneak through, and maybe even underwear. Who knows where they were sneaking in the liquor bottles. The American Conference. Jeff Traylor will join us, our good friend, tomorrow. He had something interesting to say today. We'll get that in a minute. But here's the preseason poll. How about Memphis? Where is it? Is it Metal? That's the big Memphis fan on our chat room. Memphis to pick over UTSA. Tulane without Willie Fritz is third. And then South Florida, some interesting notes we'll have for you with Coach Golish in just a moment. And Army at 5. Tom Herman, Florida Atlantic at number 6.
Yeah, I actually, on my top 5 on Friday, had when I made my first pass to the playoff, I had Memphis as my G5 team in the playoff. I think UTSA will nip at their heels all season long. That's going to be a tough league. But I think Memphis and Seth Hennigan really have a great shot at winning a ton of games this year. They roll into Tallahassee. I'm nervous about it.
Should be. Seth Hennigan's a Texas guy, and I've been following him pretty closely. He's a really good quarterback, and apparently a little bit of a jokester. I know somebody who was at American Media Days and was able to talk to him and enjoyed the conversation, the short, small talk that they had with him. So it's just a cool moment. But, yeah, they won 10 games last year, and they bring back a lot, including Seth Hennigan. So I think there's rightful reason to believe that Memphis, especially building off of last year and just kind of looking at what is a very open American Athletic Conference, I think they are one of the sure bets. UTSA with Traylor, their first year in the American, and they're number 2 as the conference shakeups continue. You got to remind myself of that. But, UTSA, you'd expect them to always be pretty solid, but still number 2. Tulane at 3. You obviously lose Willie Fritz, but John Sumrall is a hell of a hire, so I think he'll do just fine there. USF, there's a lot of talk around them, as you see with realignment. I don't know how often the USF folks are desperate, and I don't mean that in a negative way either, but they really fellas are feeling the pressure to get one of these invites, and they're doing everything in their power to try and get that. But they're also hoping that having a pretty good football team will help in those efforts, and I think they're expected to be pretty good this year. So, yeah, I mean, going through the rest of the list, I think it's an interesting conference. It's a makeup that makes some sense. And obviously it's a conference that's been in some upheaval as of late with just some of the subtractions and additions. But, I mean, Memphis, UTSA, Tulane, USF, Army, I think that's an interesting league.
No,
I think that could be
so.
a really crazy, fun league.
And we're going to hear from North Texas cornerback Ridge Tahada here at the bottom of the hour. But UAB with Jacob Zeno at quarterback is at number 10. Again, another large conference. This one's normal, though, like 14 teams. All right, Tim Pernetti. The new commissioner of the American Conference, saying that college athletics has failed to modernize the enterprise until it was forced to. You agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I like. Here's what I'm going to enjoy about the Group of Five conferences over the next few years, especially now post-Hal settlement. They are going to be in full, oh, no, we're just going to say what we want to say mode. Like, there's no posturing that they can make anymore. They're going to say what they need to say. And Tim Pernetti's saying it here about, they're talking to everybody, all the different things that they're going through. And there's no reason for them to be cagey about anything. What do they have to be cagey about? What do they have to be Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti or anything about? They don't have to be secret about anything. They don't. They need to go out and start, swinging for the fences and whatever they can get and making the comments that they need to make. They've got to get out there and just speak their truth.
I like this one here, Craig. I don't think there's a commissioner in America that would wake up in the morning and have comfort in their stability, and that even includes maybe Sankey and what's going on at the Big Ten.
No, I think Sankey and Petitti.
I get he and Pernetti.
Well, I have Phillips in my head from yesterday. But I think Sankey and Petitti sleep okay. I think they wake up nice and cozy. I think that they're just fine, honestly. I think even Brett Yormark's fine, too. So it depends. If you're the American commissioner, though, are you a little bit more, like, upset stomach when you wake up in the morning, a little bit more anxiety? Yeah, I'd imagine you are, because you're not just in a cozy seat like the other two that I mentioned in particular. And even stretching that further, like Brett Yormark and the Big 12 are still much better shape than basically every other league out there, So, I think he's right for the most part. I think, though, that if you're in the SEC and Big Ten, that's just kind of the exception to the rule. But, he says that, and he's right, because there's a lot of things going on. But he also says 2 lines down, if college athletics was in such bad shape, do you really think we'd be experiencing this accelerated growth and outside entities would be investing in us? So doesn't that say the opposite? That, he's spinning the message that they're in really good health because there's so many people wanting to be a part of it. Now you can break that down a little further and say, yeah, they're swirling in. They're called vultures, and they're here to pick the bones apart and take everything that's left over once this runs itself into the ground. And I don't think that's where it's going, but just saying, just because there's interest, it doesn't mean it's from good, entitled, people that want to see the best for the game as we know it. But, there is a lot of interest, and so he has a point there, but that interest does come with a lot of uncertainty, and so it's a mixed bag, I think, and Pernetti relays that pretty well, starting off with how nervous it can be and ending with how, bright the future is. So I don't know if he's telling himself that because you have to, but I think that is speaking to just how weird of a stage we're in, where you think it's great because there is a lot of attention. At the same time, you have no idea what that little light at the end of that tunnel is or not. Is that daylight or is that a train coming down? We don't really know. I don't think most commissioners do either, especially in his position.
USF, go ahead.
I do like that he was like, let's stop pretending like there's no money.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that.
That's one of the most refreshing things I've ever heard, because even Greg Sankey, who sits like a Scrooge McDuck on a pile of gold, is like, well, I don't know, any student athletes that want to pay taxes. And you're like, what? Come on, Greg, you're better than this.
Yeah, he also talked about the jersey patches and private capital and things, and sounds like he's like Yormark in We'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ready to dive into all that stuff.
Metal, thank you for the super chat. We brought up your Memphis Tigers, and you're excited. I asked if you were around, and you are. Thank you for the super chat. All right, Matt Baker's been busy. He'll be on with us later in the week. Alex Golish of USF asked about playing Alabama and Miami. Alabama and Miami are having to play South Florida.
I like that answer. Look, he gave Bama all they wanted last year, and that was
good. That was that Jalen Milroe was.
That was the Jalen Milroe's benched game, and that was you can either be petulant and not play, or you can do it my way. I'm Nick Saban game, which if I were to do a top 5 of top 5 Nick Saban greatest wins, that game would be on the list because he willingly went into the breach knowing his quarterback play was going to be total crap.
And it was hellaciously bad weather.
Awful weather.
Yeah.
He knew his quarterback play was going to be bad. He knew it. There's no way he was like sitting there going, oh, I didn't realize these guys weren't ready to play major college football. No, he knew and, man, just drove it right into the breach and came out the other side. And then Jalen Milroe's like, okay, I get it. I'm sorry. And yeah, that one would be a top 5 win for me for Nick Saban.
Jackson Mars, also a big Memphis fan in the chat room, wanted to make sure we don't forget about you. And Alex Gullish also saying this. We've wondered about USF and where they would have been had they been where they are maybe now or will be in the next year or two when some of the realignment changes occurred. In the works, stadium football operations, quote, it's going to be the Taj Mahal of facilities nationally, which is great for USF now and into the future. So there's another note from Golish from what's going on with the Bulls at USF.
Yeah, they also said that if the cap is $20 million for NIL investment or roster investment, that they're going to get right there as best they possibly can. They're going to, if it's $20 million, they're going to get $20 million or get as close to that as they possibly can. So I think what you're seeing is, for one, Alex Golish, just a strong leader who's done a really good job in a short amount of time. They got some good talent. I mean, Byron Brown is an incredible player that is back and is young and is coming off of a really great year, and I think is going to be one of the main reasons why the Bulls are getting a lot of love for possibly, playing for the American title, if not winning it. I mean, they're right there in the mix. You saw them; they're relatively high on the preseason polls, and for good reason, because of what Golish and company did last year and some of the guys they're bringing back like Brown. So I think there's a lot of excitement there. I think they're in that Memphis boat where they're like, give us the word and we're ready to roll. Like in terms of conference movement, like let us know. And if there's a ticket to the Big 12 or this ACC configuration in the future, like let us know. And I think you're seeing them maybe it took a little bit longer than it needed to for this last round. But I think they also see like, this is the last round of boats, fellas. Like they're not going to come around again for a very long time. And so USF's ponying up and flexing their muscle, and Memphis is doing the same. And I think they're both very intriguing programs, not only on the field where they should both be highly competitive there in the American, but I think off the field they're also getting their ducks in a row as well. And that's good to see, especially if those calls do come, because who the heck knows. But I like the attitude that Alex Golish has, and they gave Alabama all they wanted last year. That was nearly one of the greatest upsets we've seen in some time.
It was an unbelievable watching that game. Like, this is going to happen. We're going to hear from Ridge Tahada from North Texas, cornerback, in just a moment, but let's go to a couple of more stories until he'll be calling your phone, Paul. Houston, speaking of facilities, showing off their new scoreboard that's going up as they continue to add more and more to what they have, as they, of course, are in year 2 of the Big 12. They have constructed that new scoreboard. They've made changes with the stadium. You hear a lot about Kansas and Texas Tech, and Baylor's done some things with their stadium too, among others. And there you see what Houston's done with this massive scoreboard in the end zone at where they are, and you can tell that they are all in and not favored to have a very good season this year, and who knows. But they are showing off some of the new glitz and glamour.
Yeah, it looks nice. I don't have much of a reference for what it was like beforehand. Just without a side-by-side, it's hard for me because I never got down to Houston prior to these changes, but I'm hoping to get there at some point in the future. But I know they're excited about the additions, and that's a nice-looking big old screen that you're hoping has a lot of Donovan Smith and company highlights on it this year. They are not projected to be very competitive with Willie Fritz in this first year, but I think that they had some surprises up their sleeves. I mean, they gave Texas hell last year. They beat Baylor in overtime in Waco. So they'll jump up and bite you if you're not careful. I don't know if it'll be enough in year one to, like, get to a bowl game or something, but I don't think you can just sleep on them. Although I can understand the pessimism as far as not expecting a whole lot this year, but there's a lot of good, I think, going on with that program as well, and the facilities are a big part of, making that move, and so it's good to see them getting the finishing touches and debuting soon.
Paul, you need to call Doug Waters.
Okay.
We're calling him. I agree, Craig. And it's interesting, all this, like even the question or the comment from the commissioner of the AAC, this stuff about there's not enough money is ridiculous. There's plenty of money. It's just a matter of how you want to spend it and what you spend it on. There's a note from Jeff Traylor. He's going to join us tomorrow real quickly as we get ready for Ridge to join our show. Jeff Traylor, he's been on with us a bunch, and he's mentioned this a lot, but never this specific number, that one of his players was offered nearly $700,000 in NIL this offseason. The player decided to stay. Some of the responses were, well, why would you turn that down? And secondly, what great loyalty of the player wanting to stay and play for Traylor and the Roadrunners in San Antonio.
Yeah, don't let the money-hungry, greedy doofuses that don't understand life outside of money to, like, sit there and ruin something that feels good like that. So, yeah, kudos to whoever that was. And I'm sure they still got a pretty penny at UTSA. It wasn't like they walked home with nothing. But, yeah, that's not a figure that shocks me. I just hate that everything's like, how could you not even doubt that somebody could maybe go the other way with that? Like, I guess just people are easily bought these days, or think that everybody else is as well. But, yeah, kudos to whoever that was that's unnamed, and I bet UTSA is taking good care of them as well, and I don't think that's really all that crazy of a figure. I would have gawked if it was a bit higher, but that one I think is about the going rate for big-time players right now.
We are now joined by Ridge Tahada, cornerback, All-American candidate, University of North Texas. Media days going on with various conferences throughout the country. And Ridge Tahada joins us on 365 Sports, and name the familiar to here because of Raleigh, who played at Baylor, and his other brother that also has played college football. Ridge, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. What's it like to be someone that's representing North Texas at media days?
It's great. It's been a great experience. I've enjoyed my time. It's great to be here with my teammate Damon Ward, and just we taking it all in for sure.
All right, Rich, I'm going to get down to the hard-hitting question first. Before we talk about your team at North Texas, we would like to know which Tahada brother is the best football player.
I'm going to say myself for sure. I think I got what it takes to take that title now.
So if I called Raleigh and Ranthony right now, what would they say?
They say themselves too.
Well,
it's constant competition.
Yeah.
How much of that competition fed you to who you are today, Ridge?
It definitely helped me grow. Definitely taught me a lot of lessons. Because just growing up, seeing them compete with each other, and then Raleigh, me and him always going at it in every little thing. It definitely brought that towards my game and helped me improve my game a lot.
So, Ridge, what is kind of your mentality heading into this season, and that of North Texas as well? Just what's kind of the theme of the offseason been like for you and the team, and just how are you guys feeling as you're starting to kind of hear the drums of war start to beat as we're counting down and only about a month away?
Oh, yeah, we're ready, man. We've been working. We've been working real hard. The focus this offseason has just been the little details and finishing, starting fast and finishing. We're ready for fall camp. We know that we got some guys on this team that's gonna make an impact this year, and we ready. We ready.
How much does it help that Coach Morris is back for another year and it's not something all completely new?
It helps a lot. It helps tremendously. Just being in year two, even on the offensive side and defensive side, a lot of guys they're comfortable now. We know what to expect. We know what we got to do. We know the offense. We know the playbook. We know all of that, and we're just excited because we know we got a lot to prove to people.
Ridge Tahada, cornerback, North Texas, with us on 365 Sports.
What is it like practicing against that offense? It's got to be. I mean, you've got to be in heck of a shape. I mean, obviously other people run it, but there's not maybe more fast running offenses than the one that you have to look at every day.
You're exactly right. It's tough. I can say that it's very different. I'm used to it now, but that offense is a type where you can know what's coming, but you still might not stop it. Like it's very fast paced, very explosive, and I'm just glad that is my team that got that offense.
How much does that just give you a relaxing feeling when you're out there on the field and lining up against guys of like, yeah, y'all aren't as fast as us, y'all don't execute the way that we – I mean, just seeing that every day in practice, does that allow you to play a bit more free out there on defense?
For sure it does. Just going off last year, like we had top 10 offense in the country, like it, and going against that every week, like you're not gonna see that every week, like week in, week out. You're not gonna see a top play against the top offense in the country, top receivers in the country. So it definitely helps your game. It makes the game go a lot slower, for sure.
You were at McNeese State, and then of course now at North Texas. How much? No matter how much you enjoy where you are near hometown, of course, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, how much do you miss the cooking and food in Louisiana?
For sure. That's one thing that I always miss. That food can't be beat. It can't be recreated out here. It's really good, but the bright side is I got my dad and my dad's side. They still make some good food out here, so I can hang on to that one.
How did you, I mean, when you grow up and a lot of times your family is, like everybody kind of has a school, but you guys all wound up at different ones. Was that by design, or you guys are just so independent of each other that you each had your kind of own things?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd say it's just like our choice. We never really honestly, I don't think it was ever planned for any of us to go D1 and just have the careers that we've had, but it's just how things fell into our lap, how God placed these things in our life. And UNT just happened to be the school that I ended up in. I never expected to even attend UNT at all. I didn't know much about them until I got here. So it was just how we got to our spots. It wasn't planned. I'll say that, it wasn't planned.
Rich, Denton's kind of a hopping spot, man. It's kind of I don't know if it's a hidden jewel for a lot of people who live in Texas, but I think maybe it still is. Like, it's a cool little town, man. How do you enjoy Denton?
It's a great town. I enjoy it a lot. It's growing a lot, too. It's a lot of traffic everywhere now. So I enjoy it, though. It's some little cool spots to hang out around here, too. I enjoy it a lot. Got my own spot out here. It's real cool.
How many schools in the state of Texas that have so many college football programs offered you a scholarship coming out of high school?
You can repeat that? You can repeat that question?
How many colleges in Texas, college football programs in Texas, offered you an actual scholarship coming out of high school?
Say one.
Abilene Christian?
Nah, two. Abilene Christian and Incarnate Word.
What did that do to you? Incarnate Word's playing big boy football, and obviously Abilene Christian's a good school too, and now you're at North Texas. But how did you feel when you were obviously overlooked because you're now playing FBS football?
It definitely put a chip on my shoulder put another chip on my shoulder that I already had. And I knew that I was capable of playing big-time ball. Like, I always knew that. My family always knew that. It was just about opportunity. And luckily, I had the opportunity coming out of McNeese. And Coach Gish gave me that opportunity, and I thrived in it. And I still got that chip on my shoulder. There's still a lot of people that don't believe in me. But as long as I believe in myself, I know that I'll be all right.
I mentioned the competition with your brothers, Anthony, and also Raleigh growing up and how they pushed you and vice versa. How much did you learn from their experiences of ups and downs of playing the game?
I learned a lot. They taught me a lot. Just seeing the things that they went through and applying it to my experiences. And I talk to them all the time, and they always giving me gems or just giving me talks about how I need to approach the game, how I need to just approach life. And, like, all their experience teaching it to me it's only helped me grow as a person and as a player. Did
your dad call, let's see, he sent me a note. He called Raleigh Tom. Your other brother, Jerry Raleigh, was Tom. Ridge was Jerry. So you guys were Tom and Jerry. Is that right? Is that how he referred to you?
Yeah, he always called us that because we was always just messing around with each other. Like, when my oldest brother would be getting recruited, like, me and Raleigh spent the most time together, and we just always would mess with each other, wrestle, fight, just play around with each other. So my dad always come up with some names for us.
He is somebody that over the years, and especially watching Raleigh and his experiences and journey at Baylor, where he was really good statistically. And there were some games, obviously, when things don't go wrong, but that's part of playing the position of cornerback. I don't know of a father that may be more of a supporter, and I guess everybody is, but of their sons and watching them play the way he is. Tell me about him.
He's great, man. He's the best dad you can ask for. And he invests so much time in us and just tries to make sure everything we do is right. And he's just a great man. He's a great husband, great father. And, like, we just trying to be the best man. Like, if we could just be half the man that he is, we'll be good. But, man, his support never goes unnoticed from us.
A couple of more things, and I know you got to go. Ridge Tahada from North Texas with us on 365 Sports. Who was a better football player, in your opinion, Oregon's DeAnthony Thomas or Auburn's Cam Newton?
Ooh, that's tough. I'll say, that's a tough one, man. Just because DeAnthony Thomas was more like, he played I played running back a lot, so I like DeAnthony Thomas a lot. But I'll go Cam Newton. Cam Newton he had that swag, and then he took Auburn. Like, Auburn wasn't even that good of a team. He took them to the Natty. I go Cam Newton.
Yeah, I got some inside information that those are two of your favorite players. You played.
I was like, that's pretty
yeah. That's some inside information. You played quarterback with your Little League football team. Is that a position you wish you would have done more of, or do you kind of like eventually does that make you play defensive back better?
Well, when I was a quarterback in Little League, I didn't throw the ball much. I just would run it, do some read options, maybe throw a little bit, but quarterback was I just like running. I just like having the ball in my hand. So that's why I feel like I transitioned to running back when I got a little older. And then when I got to high school, I knew that DB was the realistic position for me.
Well, it's been fun watching your brothers, Anthony, and also obviously Raleigh, and now what you're doing, Ridge. Good luck. Your brother Raleigh gave me some of that inside information on DeAnthony Thomas and Cam Newton. Your dad also sent me a couple of nuggets. And also finally said this, red beans and rice was your favorite Cajun meal. Is that correct?
Yes, by far.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Appreciate Doug and also Taylor Bryan setting this up to have you on the show today. Enjoy the rest of whatever summer you have left, and good luck when workouts begin soon.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this interview.
Absolutely. We do, too. Ridge Tahada from North Texas. That's pretty darn good to have three sons who played Division I football in college.
I've never had a boring conversation with a Tahada.
Yeah.
Speaks to their upbringing.
Yeah, no.
But yes, and especially not Keith.
Yeah, and if you've met Keith, he is full throttle, hair on fire.
Yeah, no, Ridge, just another impressive Tahada. You know, there's been a lot of them, as y'all mentioned, and it starts at home and, very involved and active and positive father who has churned out with help from family and everybody else, that's been involved, a really good line of not football players, but young men, as important, if not most importantly. So, yeah, that's been very cool to kind of see it up close to some extent. And even though we don't cover North Texas on a regular basis, shout out to Taylor Bryan and, the folks over there. And obviously Raleigh we saw up close for several years here in Waco, and we remember Ranthony very well from watching him on the opposite sideline or just seeing him in action. So, yeah, it's cool to see that continuing on. It's going to be a bittersweet day, if there's an interruption. We need to get some grandkids rolling in and get them going. But it's been incredible, and I can imagine just what falls have been like for the Tahada family for going on years now at this point. But, great to talk to him and to Ridge and to see, that North Texas has a little bit of confidence. I think it's a, question mark. Just they got hit by the transfer portal pretty hard, especially on offense. And the defense last year was a big pain in their side. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be incumbent upon him and his teammates to really step it up on defense. And you got to hope that Chandler Morris is a hit on offense. You got to hope that Ika Ragsdale, and I hope I'm saying his name right, but I've seen him in so many box scores, and I've watched a good bit of him. He's a really good running back. You hope that he can continue doing his thing and, that it all comes together because that's a program that definitely is kind of ridden the roller coaster at times, but you see, there's tons of potential there, and it's a great spot. So, I hope that Ridge and his teammates are very successful this year.
Ridge Tahada from Frisco, Texas, went to Centennial High School and then, of course, went to McNeese and ended up he's been playing at North Texas. So we appreciate, as you mentioned, Taylor Bryan, Doug Waters from UNT, Media Relations, for making him available to us. Elijah Roberts, defensive lineman at SMU, will join us here at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. But also Joshua Perry from the Big Ten Network. They're, of course, opening up their Big Ten Media Days. Josh, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Your thoughts about what are the 2 or 3 biggest storylines, in your opinion, this week in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think number one, it's kind of everybody's talking about the adjustment of the Big Ten. New teams, right? Like no divisions this year. Top 2 teams will play for a conference championship. And so I think there's this excitement about some of the newness that's associated with that and what the races are going to look like at the top. Ryan Day, speaking right now to the Big Ten Network, he is and his team expected to be one of the top teams. We'll hear from Dan Lanning later this week in Oregon. I think that would be it. Number 2, there's been the conversation, not just about the new teams coming in, but the postseason races and how coaches are adjusting to it. Heard a lot today about training camp plans, about how big depth is going to be this year. It's always big, but they want to ensure that they have depth to be able to compete toward the end of the year. And I think coaches are trying to figure out their approach. And then finally, some even more changes, helmet communications, iPads on the sideline, like mechanics in game, things of that nature. So I think that there's kind of this tone almost of a kind of new era for college football with some of the conference realignment, the playoff expansion, some of the changes that are coming to the game.
Joshua, where in your head do you think there are legitimate contenders for this conference title as you go down the list, 1 to 18? How many do you think there truly are?
3, maybe 2, right? Like it's tough. The Ohio State, Oregon, as I mentioned, Penn State. I think there's a question about their wide receivers and what they're going to be to support Drew Aller. I think their defense is going to be really good. I think if those 2 groups, the wide receiver and the quarterback, play extremely well, they'll be in the mix there. I think you put Michigan in there because of the fact that they won the title a year ago, because of the fact that they could have the best defense in the country this year. There are so many question marks on offense for them right now, and without being able to see it, it's a tough one. So I don't know if I really go past 4, right? Like the top 4 teams in there, and I probably feel confident about the top 2 in Ohio State and Oregon really being national title contenders.
We were saying this when it came to Big 12 media days and even ACC media. There's so many teams, Joshua. If you could be ranked 9th, and that doesn't mean you're going to be a bad team. It's just like, hey, somebody's got to be at the back of the line because there's, 16, 18, wherever you look, teams to sort through. It's just, I don't know, with all this newness, it just seems like these large conferences is also something to kind of get used to.
Yeah, and it's like it's hard when you try to spin that too. Like if you're a coach and you do finish probably with a solid record, but you're still middle of the road in the conference, and it's like, you know, how do you feel about finishing seventh? Well, when the Big Ten was 11 teams, like finishing seventh was, you know, real cause for concern. When you're talking about the Big Ten being 18 teams, you finish seventh, and it's like probably had a solid year, and it's just the fact that there's some good teams out in front of you. But I was going through and I looked at the preseason poll that they took, the unofficial preseason poll, and like, you know, you got Nebraska that was kind of there in the middle. You got Wisconsin there in the middle, Rutgers, Maryland, right? And like I'm looking at those schools in particular, Nebraska, Rutgers, Maryland, for some of the seasons that they've had, you know, the past 5 or 10 years. Like if you told them they were going to be in the top half of the conference, like they could finish 7, 8, 9, they would be like, hell yeah, that sounds really good. Now, does 7, 8, 9 sound great? Not necessarily, but top half of the conference is doing well for a lot of these programs.
Josh, when we talked about this with Oklahoma, Texas headed to the SEC, and of course the Pac-12 schools now in the Big Ten, and there's the teams in the Big 12 and the ACC. Do you think fan bases, and you played at one of them, the Alpha Dogs, the Blue Bloods, those who are used to 10-2 is about as low as you want to be, are they ready for the possibility of maybe 3 or 4 losses because of the schedules they may have in the conference plus non-conference games, if that happens?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think about Ohio State, and, you know, even this year, like, conference realignment be damned. Everybody's like, it's 12-0, it's a Big Ten championship, and it's making a run at that national title, probably winning the thing. And if those things all don't happen, like, people are going to look at Ryan Day and be like, man, this guy can't coach. Mm-hmm. And I'd look at his record, and what is it, like 40-3 in Big Ten games. Like, you're trying to tell me a guy who wins that many games can't coach, but these fan bases have high expectations, and it doesn't matter what the schedule is. I'd even look down at the SEC. Like, poor Billy Napier, poor Florida. I ran through their schedule the other day, and you've got, you know, Miami, and you've got Florida State and non-con, and then, you know, it seemed like they had Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU. Like, they had everybody. And, like, you end up winning 4 or 5 games out of that schedule. It's probably the expectation. Nobody's going to be satisfied with 4 games, and it doesn't matter how many great teams that were ranked in the top 25, top 15, top 10, top 5 that they played that year. So it's going to be unfortunate, but that's kind of the carnage of the new way the conferences are set up.
So you were on the Ohio State team that won the very first playoff, and you guys went 14-1. How much of a grind was that to have that little bit of extra at the end, and how much of an adjustment do you think it will take for coaches and teams to potentially have, you know, a couple of extra games at the end of the year due to the expanded playoff? Just from a player perspective, was that tough to adjust to, and will it be even tougher to add even 1 or 2 more games on top of that?
I think from a physical standpoint, it wasn't that bad. Like, you're beat up, banged up by the end of the year. Like, that's the cost of doing business playing football. What was the toughest part, honestly, was the Big Ten championship game, the amount of emotion we had. We won that game 59-0. Yeah. And to manage those emotions until the next game, which was the semifinal around New Year's. Now, those guys are going to be playing in the closer window, so a little bit less of that anxiety that builds up. But then the turnaround of an emotional game against Alabama in the South to advance to the national title. Like, we needed every single day between that game and the national title game against Oregon to feel like our emotions were back in balance. And so I think the physical aspect is one part of it, but emotionally, I think these players are going to have to be ready to handle some battles where there are ups and downs, and like you feel elated at the end of it, but you got to reframe your mindset to go out and win another one.
Josh, on the Florida thing, I want to say I think that the Gators clearly did something to Greg Sankey that made him mad. I can't figure out what it is. Like, did they not, sign his birthday card, or did one of them
even send one?
Did one of them accidentally send a drink to his wife and was like, "Hey, what's up?" It's like, "Oh no, that's Sankey's wife." I have no idea. Who do you think is the surprise team that people are sleeping on this year in the Big Ten?
This is going to sound crazy. All right, and I want to kind of preface that. I'm going to pull up their schedule here while I'm talking to you guys. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights, I think, are in a little bit of a window here to be able to surprise people. And I'm not saying that they're going to make a conference championship game or that they're going to make the college football playoff. It's certainly not what I expect. I don't think that's what people expect of them as a program. But the idea that they could be an 8-win or a 9-win team is something that people aren't necessarily comfortable with, but I think is fully within reach for them. So they play to open up the season on Thursday night. They play Howard. They've got Akron. Then they're off. Then they've got Virginia Tech. Don't know how they're going to be. Washington is their first conference game. They've got Nebraska. It feels like a matchup opponent. Wisconsin, very similar. UCLA is down right now. USC, and then they're off. Then they got Minnesota, winnable game. Maryland, winnable game. Illinois, winnable game. Michigan State. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Penn State. They don't play Oregon. Like, they avoid the top dogs of the conference. If they win 8 games or 9 games this season, like, don't be surprised, because I'm telling you right now, and I think they're talented. They've got more length. They're a tough-nosed team. Go back and watch the games against Ohio State and Michigan a year ago. I think Rutgers is starting to build into a program that people just can't roll their helmets out against anymore.
Josh, your thoughts about where college sports and all of what we've seen the last 3 to 4 years, from when COVID was there, the extra year, the transfer portal, which seems to be wide open. They're trying to tighten it up. And, of course, NIL, which has been amazing for student athletes and long overdue. You're a student athlete. Where things are in college athletics, do you see it, even with some movement still remaining, where there are 60, 70 teams among what is the Autonomy 4 and the Power, I guess, upper division?
Yeah, I think we're going to maybe get to a place where it's really defined, right? Like, I think the Power 4 may become its own thing, and they might compete for something different than the rest of the teams. But I do think that this idea of an athletic model that is associated with college is going to remain. And we all get into this thing where it's like, oh, man, don't know where the sport's going, but it feels like it's headed to hell in a handbasket. People talked about that when, they adjusted the scholarships from, 120 or whatever they were down to 85. It's like, oh my God, how are we going to field the team? Like, all the different changes. First off, there's too much money involved for people to mess this thing up too much. But I think that there's a legacy to this sport that really matters to a lot of people for it to evolve into something that's completely unrecognizable. So, changes certainly on the horizon. But I do think that after a while, it might be 70 teams, FBS, they compete for their own championship. Whatever the group of 5 was, they compete for their own championship. You got FCS all the way down, but it's still going to be college football.
Yeah, a lot of changes that were overdue, too, that are finally coming around and getting put in place. Joshua, how you feeling about the Buckeyes, man? There's a lot of hype, as you well know, a lot of big moves in the transfer portal, a lot of big talents coming back. I mean, they're one of the favorites to win the national championship this year. Do you echo those sentiments, and just kind of what are your thoughts about Ryan Day and company as they suit up?
Yeah, I mean, I echo those sentiments. It's really hard to avoid how talented that football team is and really how hungry they are at this point, considering some of the outcomes of the previous years. I had the opportunity to go one-on-one with Ryan Day today. He was fantastic. It was awesome. It was enlightening to me. He speaks of this hunger that exists, right? Like, of guys who are talented. They came to a historic program. They really haven't won anything. You got former players out there who are looking at them as if they're kind of something other than what they were when they were at Ohio State. You got a fan base that's kind of been tough on them. And now you have all the opportunity in a new look conference and a new look playoff to make a run here. And one guy he pointed to in particular was Jack Sawyer, who's an edge rusher. He's a Columbus guy. All this man thinks about is game by game, building up, game by game, building up so they can beat Michigan. And then whatever happens after that, he's ready to take on that challenge. But I think they've adopted this mentality. It's a day at a time. It's game by game in the season. By the 12th game, they better be ready to put on a show. And then after that, it's go time.
Hey, when you played the game, when did you ever, or was there any time after the opening game, no matter who you played, where you were ever completely healthy?
Oh, no. No, I mean, like, I came out of training camp every year with something, one thing or another. Like, it's the only time you feel healthy is in the offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about now? You good now?
Yeah.
It lingers. It feels like I'm still in the postseason of my career. I'll put it like that.
Just wait till you're in your 40s and you get a bruise for no reason, and then you were like, man, I really wish that could say a linebacker hit me or something.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense as opposed to, I had a weird dream about Grimace.
Yeah, there you go. Hey,
that is hilarious.
Joshua, we love the segment with you. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Enjoy Big Ten Media Days. Also great that you got Ryan Day one-on-one. That's cool. Thanks for your time, and have a great rest of the week.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on the program. Hopefully I'll get to catch up with you during the season.
We hope that too. Joshua Perry, Big Ten Network, hell of a player in his day to kind of give us some notes and nuggets from Big Ten Media Days and in college football in general. That's good stuff. We aren't done. When we come around the corner, Elijah Roberts, SMU defensive end, Jana Bardall from theathletic.com. Also, Craig's Off the Radar, Paul's Top 5, John McLean. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas. Dr. Steve Childress is my dentist. And the next time that I get a call from them, and I probably already have this appointment set up, but it's not any time in the next couple of weeks, maybe in September, that it's time for me to come in for a teeth cleaning, for just kind of check up. It won't be one of those things that I'm like, oh my God, I better start flossing now. I better start taking care of this now. No, it's a constant process. You hear that with football coaches getting a team ready for a season or a game. It's the same thing with your dental work, and Dr. Steve Childress and his staff have taught me that, because for far too long, I did just enough, brushed my teeth, that's about it, had some bad habits with what I had when it comes to sugar, etc., and now feel incredibly confident about where I am compared to where I was when I first saw him back in 2020. Dr. Steve Childress and his amazing staff. He's not the only dentist. There are others, hygienists and techs and specialists and more. Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress, my dentist in Robinson, Texas.
Celebrate American quality and value during the Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr. Drive the best. Get professional-grade power and first-class interior in a GMC Sierra. Qualified buyers save $9,000 on all 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with qualified trade-in. Military and first responders save an extra $500. Plus, find Red, White, and Blue savings tags on vehicles all over the lot. Drive home American quality and value during our Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr. They have the truck for you.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Offering over 50 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, bar, silver sneakers, and 10 cycling classes with morning and evening classes available. New state-of-the-art bikes that allow you to compete against yourself with a screen monitoring your speed, miles, resistance, and power. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Botch, and Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow, losing inches in weight the right way. There's a kids club included with your membership, plus sauna and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts, plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior pro Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Baylor Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Man, it's great having some college football players on the show. North Texas corner Ridge Tahada. Tomorrow, Boise State star Ashton Gente is going to join us. But right now, Elijah Roberts, defensive end for SMU, fresh off yesterday's ACC Media Days, back home, I think. And Elijah joins us on 365 Sports. Young fellow, thanks for your time. We appreciate that. What was it like to be a part of that first, official event as a member of the ACC yesterday?
First off, Paul, I appreciate you guys for having me today. I am back home. We just got back late last night, but it was a great experience, man. It was great for us. It was great for our program. It was great for, SMU to get out there. I believe we were the first team to go, so we kicked it off, and, it was a great experience.
Excuse me. You're joining a new conference. You're going to see all new teams this year. Golly, that's embarrassing. Right as I was about to ask you a question. But new conference, new teams. How exciting is it? How nerve-wracking is it? How do you feel about all that? Because, again, you don't know anything about any of these guys, really.
It's definitely, like, I wouldn't say nerve-wracking, but, we definitely know that we have to bring our A game, It's definitely like a sense of urgency, I would say, between our program and my coaches and players, and just knowing like where we have to go and where we need to go for us to, like you said, to be able to compete with these new teams. And I believe roster-wise, through and through, we'll be able to compete for sure.
Elijah, you do have some experience. You were at Miami for 3 years prior to joining the Mustangs last year. What was so I guess you can kind of pass on some wisdom as far as making that ACC transition, but what was your transition like last year, going to Dallas, going to Highland Park, and, playing in the red, white, and blue? What was that like being a member of SMU for the first time, and how excited are you for this second season?
It was a great experience, man. Coming to SMU really changed me, changed me as a player, changed me as a man. It really, being here and just having the connections I was able to build within a year and a half, almost 2 years that I have been here, are going to last me forever. And that's the biggest takeaway that I want to take away from being at SMU, just the connections that I made, and between alumni and guys who have been there. But yeah, it's been a great transition. And then just going into year two, it's like it's really my first time being in a system for 2 years in a row. So I'm excited to see how I could perform, how I could, just take my game to another level with playing in another system for another year. So the first time really, and playing with the same D-line coach for 2 years in a row.
Elijah, what was the reaction among players? We've had Rick Hart, the AD. We've had Coach Lashley on a handful of times. But what was the reaction among players when the news was official that SMU would be a part of the ACC starting this season?
It was, for me, exactly, it was kind of shocking. I literally just came from the ACC. I played 3 years there. Did 1 year in the AAC. It was like, what in the world? Are we going right back? It was like, it kind of seemed like it was meant for me. And so it just felt like it was crazy. And that's really was like a big reason on coming back. I just felt like, that was just like a sign, just to come back and be able to do what I did last year in the ACC, since I wasn't able to get the opportunity in my first 3 years in the ACC.
Which team are you looking forward to seeing the most, or is there one?
Honestly, I'm probably saying Nevada because they're the first one up. But I'm just so ready to play, man. I just love football so much, and I'm so ready. And it's my last year, so I'm just so ready to show everybody all the work I've been putting in, all the work that we've been putting in as a team. I know our team's ready for sure.
Elijah, we ask players that are representing their schools when we have them on at media days. That means there's a reason. That there's a reason for that you're there among 2 or 3 other teammates. What did it mean to you to be someone representing SMU yesterday?
Oh man, it was a huge honor. Like when Coach told me that I was going to be the defensive representative for us, I literally I thanked him a million times, because there's hundreds of guys on our defense who could have gone, who are leaders, who are natural captains, who are just natural born leaders. So for him to pick me, it just really meant a lot for me and for my team. I feel like I was able to go up there and represent as well, and I really am thankful for the opportunity. It was a great experience.
Elijah, when a lot of folks think of like college football in Texas, they think of, big offenses. Rhett Lashley think of great offenses, but you guys were really good on defense. Mm-hmm. What do you attribute that to? Where did that sort of start, and why did that all come together the way that it did, and how do you think that carries over from one season to possibly this season?
I think it was I think our defense, honestly, from like around this time last year, from like the first day of camp, we just knew like we knew we had something. We knew just from the practices, like just the way that we were able to gel together. We had so many new faces on our defense last year that it was kind of like the question was, how can we play together? How can we, get guys to play with each other? Because, it's not the same as offense where you kind of need this guy to do this for this guy. But on defense, man, like all 11 guys have to do the job, and all 11 guys have to trust the guy next to him. So that was like the biggest thing for us, just not having guys trying to do too much because they might feel like they need to, and they might have to do that at the previous school or this and that. So it definitely took us a little while, but once we got rolling at the fall camp, man, it was like night and day from where we were in spring. So just being able to do that, I feel like was the big reason why we took our defense to another level, because the chemistry was. You definitely need that.
I get the impression from listening to Rhett Lashley, and also even hearing some of what was said yesterday at the media days. This is an SMU team that's excited about being a part of an autonomy for a conference, no doubt. And you have that tie-in, as Craig mentioned earlier, with your time at Miami. But this isn't one of those things you guys are just happy to be there, that you expect to make a dent or an impact. What's that mindset like?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure if like what the outside world thinks. We try not to worry about that, but we know for sure that nobody's like expecting us to come in the ACC and really, shock a lot of people. But that's not really, our main goal. Our main goal, honestly, is just to like stay consistent as a team, because we know the roster that we have built within the past year or two. Like, if we can stay consistent and don't beat ourselves, we're gonna give a lot of teams trouble. So. I honestly believe that we will be able to shock a lot of teams, or I wouldn't even use the word shock, just like you put it, just put a dent into the conference. I truly believe that we'll be able to do that, if not more.
How would you, if you had like one or two words to describe Rhett Lashley, what would they be?
There's a lot of words I use for Rhett Lashley. I'll probably say fiery in a good way and in a fiery way. He could definitely show his emotion in tons of ways. And then I would say, I said a lot of yesterday. He was more, it's not one word, but this is like a phrase for him. He's like a player's coach. Coach Rhett is very much a player's coach. The most player's coach I've been around. Like, he knows what his players want and needs, and he knows how to communicate with us. And he gives us such like truth and transparency. There's no like gray with him. There's no like guessing what he wants, what he likes, what is this, what is that. He tells us what it is, and those are probably the two like biggest things about him, for sure. You seem to be very much as happy as you can be with where you are, and as you mentioned, finally getting another year in the same system. You grew up in Miami. That's where you went initially, and then you left. How difficult was it to leave Miami, Florida, and to move on to find something that was a better opportunity for you? Oh, it was extremely hard, man. Like you said, I'm from Miami. I was a Miami Hurricane fan my whole life. Like, that's like really where I knew I wanted to be at. Like, I got the offer, and I told my parents, like if I take another visit, it's really just to take it, because I know where I'm going. So leaving there, it was hard. Like I was gonna leave my second year, but then I was like, no, I think I'm gonna stay and try to fight it out, compete, this and that. But after the third year, I just felt like it was kind of like sink or swim. I didn't have any much time left. I only had 2 more seasons left to play. I felt like my time had gone, and it was definitely hard to leave. I did not want to leave. It's hard to leave Miami. It was hard to leave the program. It was hard to leave my hometown, my family. But it was definitely for the better. So you have this season. Obviously, there's also the future, but you got to stay focused on now. But do you think much about life after college football and what's next? not really as much right now, but I definitely have to, that's definitely something that I definitely talk about with my team, my parents, my sort of like agent or whatever. So I definitely have those talks because, you'll be a fool not to think past football. Mm-hmm. We're way more than just football players, so you kind of have to think about that, of course.
How would you describe, Elijah, what the last, not just your career, but how college football and athletics has changed since you enrolled in playing college football at Miami and now where you are with all the changes?
Oh, man, it's been crazy. Since I've gotten to college football. Well, my first year in college football was COVID, so that was a crazy year within itself, playing with no fans in the stadium and doing that stuff for the first time. That was a little different for sure. And then I think the next year, the transfer portal opened up or something like that, and they started the whole transfer portal thing. And the year after that was the NIL started, so it was like every year it's just been like something kind of crazy. But I definitely do believe transfer portal and NIL are in the benefit of student athletes. It's just the way you use it. It's the way that you look at it, and it's the way that you approach things. Some people, I believe, transfer maybe too early, or they may stay a little too long and transfer too late when it's too late. And then as far as like NIL, it's all about how you take it and how you use it. Some people, might use it for the wrong reason. Some people might not. So I definitely feel like in the greater sense, it's definitely beneficial for student athletes, the portal and NIL. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it, the way things have changed. We appreciate your time. Good luck. You got a great personality. Stay who you are. I'm glad Christopher Smith set this up for us, and appreciate you having a chance to go to media days, fly it on that big, beautiful private jet, and then getting back in time. And enjoy whatever time you have left. I know workouts are going on. Thank you for your time today.
No, sir. I appreciate you guys so much. Have a great day. Have a blessed day.
Absolutely. Elijah Roberts got a chance to play at the next level. Very good player. Craig, you brought this up. You hear about SMU, the offense, et cetera, but their defense was stingy and among the best in the country when it comes to statistics as well.
Yeah, it was a top 25-ish defense, I think, overall. Maybe stretch that a little 35-ish, but like in certain categories, definitely up there. And just as a total package, one of the better units in the entire country, which, is probably surprising for some people that maybe didn't pay attention or hearing that for the first time, but it was true. They were really good on defense, and they've got guys like him coming back, McGill, others that ensure that they should be pretty good once again. And then, offensively, Preston Stone being back amongst an array of weapons they have surrounding him. They've recruited really well. I think there's a lot of reasons why you're seeing SMU like not just getting some respect, but like being picked to maybe play for the ACC championship if things are to fall a certain way. Yep. I don't think you're ready to go that far just yet, but I think they're going to be in the mix and making some noise. Now, I sort of chalk up everybody's move, even the Pac-12 schools, to the Big 12, even though you'd look at that as more even, as there's some adjustment period. But, how extreme that adjustment period is for SMU, I think will dictate how good they can in fact be. But what's really interesting about them is their first two games. I mean, first of all, they open on the road at Nevada, so that's just kind of a little strange opener there. So you got to be careful just being out on the road and all that. But you play Houston Christian in week 2 at home. I mean, that should be a no-doubt win there. But I don't know if you guys have noticed with SMU's entrance into the ACC, there's been a lot of trash talk with them, and especially Big 12 schools, in particular schools like TCU. There's just and the Texas schools in general, there's no love lost. They feel like they were snubbed for decades, and they were. And now they feel like they finally are on equal footing, and they're going to show TCU and Baylor and Texas Tech why they were always better, and they just never had the opportunities, right? And so in week 3, they played BYU. And in week 4, they play TCU. Mm-hmm. So that's 2 Big 12 teams in the first month of the season. So if you talk about bragging rights, like there's a couple games right there, Big 12 versus SMU, where they're either going to be, throw their weight around afterwards, or, the Big 12 is going to be able to like pat them on the head as they do, and, go away Mustangs. I'm looking forward to that because there's been a lot of heated combo, as you might imagine, because they feel like they've been held back, and others feel like they're not deserving of being in the ACC. They bought their way in, and so that's going to create a really interesting environment around them this year.
I think a lot of people have the impression, especially probably SMU folks, that one of the reasons that nobody looked at them when the Big 12 added or others was the fact that you have a sleeping, not giant. They had a long stretch because of what happened in the 80s. But that they are that they were waiting for their opportunity, and we've seen what they've done, $159 million fundraising. The recruiting is much better. And now there's nothing to hold them back other than just if they aren't good enough. And I think they'll be competitive, and I don't know how many games they'll win in the ACC. I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy for them. I like Rhett Lashley. I know a lot of guys, people that graduated from SMU, they've been to hell and back. Some of it was deserved, earned, whatever. But I think it's cool. TCU was held back. Houston was held back as far as, schools like that were held back for a long, long time and not able to play among what were then Power 5 schools or conferences.
And look, I'll tell you this. There are people who will never forgive SMU. One of them is our good buddy Kim Coulter. Just can't stand him because of what happened in the 80s, you know, and that's fine. That's his prerogative, you know. Now it's weird. Like, all that stuff is legal now. Like, everything that SMU did, every single thing that SMU did, if you just listed it out right now, other schools would be like, "Oh, good idea. Let's do that ourselves."
But it wasn't legal at the time. It was very illegal at the time, and so I don't blame Kim or anybody for not liking the way that they conducted their business back in the day. And you know, had they not got hit the way they got hit, who's to say how that would have turned out in the long run? You know, I bet a whole lot of dominoes are different. Like maybe Baylor's not in the Big 12, but SMU is, or you know, things like that could have happened. But I don't blame Kim. Look, and they're not a big school, and they don't have a big online presence, but they got some folks that define SMU arrogance. Let's say the rich, Richie Rich types. There are definitely those people I've come across, and there's also some folks who are just like very happy to just be a part of the conversation and be in the mix for the first time in a really long time. And to those folks, salute to you. Hopefully, we are able to get some of your ears, from time to time, and we'll definitely be paying close attention. I mean, we have Rhett Lashley in this show like twice a year, and we don't shy away from the ponies, even though it's still, I think, a question mark of how much interest there really is there. I'm curious to see the TV ratings for SMU games. A lot of that will be dependent on how good they are and who their matchups are. Like, I'd imagine there'd be a very healthy number for Florida State in that first ACC game, but you're on the big stage now. Were you really held back, or are you kind of what people have thought you were for the last 30 years? Does that make sense? And they're going to get a shot to shoot their shot and prove it one way or the other, whether they belong or maybe if they don't. But it's going to be really interesting. And those BYU and TCU games, that's fall with Florida State, as I mentioned, opening up ACC play. Got Louisville right after that. So those first 6 weeks, if they can navigate those, I think they're in pretty good shape. It's really those first 6 weeks that are going to, I think, determine where they fall in the long run, because that second half of the schedule opens up a lot easier for them. But Preston Stone leading the way, really good defense, really good head coach. There.
Jennings been playing quarterback the whole time Stone was out.
Yeah, so I think you're feeling good if you're the Ponies about where you are.
All right, when we come back, Jana Bardall from theathletic.com. She's an editor for their college football coverage, also writes columns, also articles covering. In fact, she had a couple today about the news and notes from the Big Ten and Media Days. We'll have that and more. I just got a call. I'm not throwing out names because I don't do that. But tomorrow afternoon, one of our guests today, John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist, is going to be at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame with a luncheon featuring former Temple Dunbar High School star and North Texas star Joe Greene. He just called the phone. Not sure we'll get him today or not. Hopefully we do. So we'll see if we might be able to squeeze him in to the 5 o'clock hour. But Jana Bardall, Craig's off the radar, locked and loaded today. And this is 365 Sports. I just put in the chat room that TexasBeefHouse.com, which is a proud sponsor of Paul Catalina's Top 5, they just had another live online auction. It was very, very successful. I tried to bid on 2 tomahawk ribeyes that were like combined 7 or 8 pounds. We're talking about monstrous. I did not win the bid. I went all the way down to the last couple of minutes. The clock reset every time somebody wants to bid on something that's bidonbeef.com, a part of TexasBeefHouse.com. So I lost out on the bid. Some of you did too. Some of you did win and got to be able to buy some beef that will be sent to you. They now also have made one change. what was Sick'em 10, which was a code you could use if you called them, TexasBeefHouse.com, or were a part of an auction, a live auction, online auction, you would get 10% off the cost of anything you bought over $100. Sick'em 10 was the code. It's now straight up 365 sports. So it's going to take some time for some of you to get used to that. That just makes a lot more sense. So if you go to TexasBeefHouse.com, if you're a part of an online auction and you win something, be sure to mention 365 Sports. Get 10% off anything you buy that's over $100 and free shipping to the contiguous 48 states. Texas Beef House, Wagyu, Angus cattle, incredible product. TexasBeefHouse.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Here we go, 365 Sports, about halfway through the 4 o'clock hour. Jana Bardall, college sports editor, newsletter writer, theathletic.com, and also has been around covering college sports for quite some time, joins us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoke. Jana, thank you very much for your time, as always. So I saw your newsletter. Oregon and Ohio State take front and center. Your thoughts about the Ducks, and how about the big floating duck in the river right outside Indianapolis as far as the stadium?
Well, hey, guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, that was quite the entrance by Oregon. I enjoyed seeing that on my Twitter timeline this morning. But yeah, I mean, Big Ten Media Days starts up today. I think the spotlight really is on Ohio State and Oregon. I think that those 2 teams are heavy favorites to play in the Big Ten championship game. A lot of people are considering them heavy favorites, even locks for the 12-team college football playoff. Obviously, with Ohio State, they've had an offseason that has just been really historic. Just building a roster that's built for this must-win season, especially for Coach Ryan Day, and really, they're on the verge of a year where they have a lot of expectations around them. Also have their new OC in Chip Kelly. It was interesting. I just saw clips of Ryan Day earlier on at the podium saying he trusts Chip Kelly with his life, and there's a lot of trust there. So there's lots of intrigue about Ohio State. Then on the other hand, Oregon is obviously one of the 4 newcomers in the conference, but I think the Ducks carry very high expectations as well. Dylan Gabriel as a quarterback is a heavy favorite for Offensive Player of the Year. He's already up high on Heisman Trophy odds. So those are the two teams that I think people expect a lot of. So they'll have the heavy spotlight this week in Indianapolis as well.
Who do you think has more pressure on them this year? Ryan Day to A, beat Michigan, and B, run deep into the playoff, or say like a Lincoln Riley who's had a couple of down years and now enters a new conference for the first time without a surefire superstar quarterback?
That's a really good question. I think initially, I would say Ryan Day and Ohio State, because I think, like I said earlier, I think they've built this roster to really have these high expectations. I think USC and Lincoln Riley still have a lot of question marks around them, and people are obviously pretty angsty to start seeing things work with Riley, especially on the defensive side of the ball with USC. But I think there's a lot more question marks for the Trojans, whereas if you look at Ohio State and Ryan Day, everyone just feels really confident in what they've built. So it would feel like a pretty big letdown to see it not carry out onto the field this season.
Okay, Jana, you know that the realignment world has been crazy over the last couple years. So here we are with this 18-team Big Ten. I've asked just about everybody throughout our preseason talks about this, but at what point did you just not know what to do with your preseason poll when you got to a certain number of teams, or did you enjoy the 18 teams? I myself find it to be quite a lot to keep up with, but how about you?
Yeah, it is a lot to keep up with. It's going to be an interesting season. We also, the divisions are gone in the Big Ten,
yep.
so that's going to be another thing to get used to, and especially once we get down to the conference championship game, it's going to be decided in a different way. But the 18 teams is pretty crazy. I mean, Tony Petitti said this morning that Big Ten is focused on those 18 right now and integrating these 4 new teams in there. So, I think you still have those traditional heavyweights at the top of the Big Ten. Ohio State, Oregon is in there now, Michigan. I think this mid-tier will be interesting to watch this year and seeing if teams that have traditionally not been able to maybe break through that wall, like maybe Penn State or Iowa, are able to do that.
There's teams in the middle. I saw a note, I believe it was from Brett McMurphy, about Rutgers their schedule, conference schedule avoids like the top 5 or 6 rated teams in the conference, which is just one of those algorithms. And Greg Schiano, this is Rutgers. People have always made fun of them, at least the last 6 to 10 or 12 years. How much does he impact Rutgers? And I'm not saying they're going to play for a conference title, but they get a break with the schedule, and they're making some inroads right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I noticed that on their schedule as well. I think they don't play Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, or Oregon. And I also saw Greg Schiano this morning kind of went viral online saying he didn't come out of retirement to go to a bowl game, came out of retirement to win a championship at Rutgers. So I think that, given the schedule that Rutgers has, and also some of the returners that they have, I think they have a chance to have a season that is maybe more successful than they've seen in the past, for sure. That the schedule is the first thing you can look at, where it's pretty manageable for them, and if they're able to take advantage of that, they could be fun to watch.
What are reasonable expectations for Michigan?
That's a good question. I'm really interested in Michigan, and I don't know too much about what to expect from them with Sharon Moore now as head coach. I think they're going to have some good momentum, and the roster obviously is familiar with Sharon and likes him as a coach. We saw him head coach in a few games last season as well that ended up being successful on the way to the national championship. So I don't know that Michigan is definitely not a surefire playoff contender this year. I think they'll be successful, but maybe use the year also to just build back up the camaraderie in the roster that they have there. So I think that, expectations are always high at Michigan, but I don't think it's a letdown if they necessarily, miss the 12-team playoff and maybe even miss the Big Ten championship game this year as well.
Jana, as we discussed, it's a crowded field, but are you buying in on Nebraska, taking it up another notch with Matt Rule in year 2?
So obviously, there's quarterback Dylan Raiola, and he's going to be interesting to watch. It's a true freshman who really has the weight of this program on his shoulders. He's going to be the starter. Everybody's betting on him kind of saving the program, and he had a whole story leading up to here, committed to Georgia, then flips back again to Nebraska. So Nebraska's obviously really excited about him. It just depends how a true freshman is going to be able to meet those expectations, and I think that could go either way. I think Matt Rule's a really good coach as well, but Nebraska has a lot to prove on the field results-wise. The front half of their schedule is pretty forgiving. I think they could get off to a really strong start, but it's avoiding those late game mishaps and giving up those leads really late like they did a lot last season. That's going to be key for them to have a strong start, which I think would be really important given how their schedule plays out in the beginning.
Yeah, you wonder, because of their record in one-score games has been so atrocious for like the last 5 years, if they could win a game early, late in the game with a pick or a score or a field goal or something, it's like they're waiting for the worst thing to happen, like a meteor to land on their head, and it normally does. If they could win a game early, and I know they have Colorado somewhat early, and that's an explosive offensive team. I think if that happens, that might get them those extra 2 or 3 wins for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that Colorado game is going to be one to watch as well, just like it was last year. But this year it's at Memorial Stadium in Nebraska. And, yeah, that'll be an important one for that team. And I'd agree with you. I mean, their outcomes in one-score games can feel really deflating, and I think it did last year. So once again, that's why I think these first 5, maybe 6 weeks of the season are really pivotal, and I think we'll have a better idea of what to think of where Nebraska's season is going to go after those first few weeks.
Purdue was picked last in that Cleveland.com poll, and not that I expected them to be a playoff contender by any means, but I thought Hudson Card, Ryan Walters, all that your 2 would be better than last. Why do you think the absolute doubt on Purdue?
Yeah, I think Purdue has a lot to prove. They have a pretty hard schedule, I would say, too. I'm just looking at it now. They have Notre Dame pretty early. They go to Wisconsin, which is always a tough game on the road. And also curious to see what Luke Fickell will do there this season. Purdue also gets Oregon. They get Ohio State. So I think, I think Hudson Card, maybe people are underrating him a little bit, but I think that for Purdue, it's just a matter of having a lot to prove on the field and playing in a conference that is just is taken a notch up this year in terms of what it's going to take to be successful.
Your thoughts about the Heisman race, which is early, and you see these polls that come out, and Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, obviously Carson Beck, among others. Do you have one that right now you think, if you were to say, okay, this is the one I think will win it right now?
That's a good question. I think the leaders right now seem to be Dylan Gabriel and Carson Beck. I think those are the 2 that people kind of are going to have their eyes on early in the season. But I was just reading earlier today, actually, a story from Seth Emerson at The Athletic from last week's SEC Media Days, and there's a lot of really star-powered quarterbacks in the SEC this year as well, which is a little bit of a different storyline than there was last year. I mean, as you mentioned, there's Quinn Ewers, there's Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. So there's a chance for one of those quarterbacks in the SEC to have a really strong campaign as well.
Jana, what's it like to write that newsletter? Because it's got to be kind of short, crisp, and yet very informative. And I always enjoy those because it's kind of like, in a way, Cliff Notes to understand what's going on in case you've been out for 12 hours.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's always fun to write. I mean, I kind of try to just figure out what I've been reading and following all day and what I could catch people up on as someone that reads and writes about college football all day, every day, and what my other fans that maybe don't get to do that as often as I do might have missed. So it's definitely a fun project in the off season. Just dialing in on storylines here around media days, but also the quirky things that happen. We had a lot of coverage on the EA Sports College Football 25, which I know people were super excited about. So it was kind of fun to dial into that excitement. But really the newsletter is going to be focused toward the season now that it's inching a lot closer. We'll have schedule breakdowns. We'll have inside looks at games that are going to matter most for the playoff race. A ton of just playoff predictions because it's the first year of this 12-team format. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how the teams that are in contention fluctuate throughout the season. So a lot of trending sections, and we'll always keep you up to date on what you need to know and also what's fun to follow in college football, because there's always some funny stuff going around as well.
Absolutely. Jana, thanks for your time. We appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate the time on the show. Have a great week, and we'll have you again, I hope, sometime or 2 or 3 during the college football season.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much for having me. Have a good day.
Jana Bardall, theathletic.com, with us on a lot of the nuggets and her stories, topics, bullet points when it comes to the Big Ten. Craig's Off the Radar is around the corner.
You know, there used to be a time where you could ask about almost every team in a conference, and we're going to have to really be careful of asking about – it's hard. You can't ask about 18 teams anymore, to get around to everybody. It's who do you not include in Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Washington, Nebraska, Iowa? I mean, there's so many storylines in the Big Ten alone. It's kind of crazy that
you let them you let them send an alert to you and, hey, by the way, we're having a pretty big week and a game or a moment. I think that's how you have to do it. They have to kind of earn that out of the 18 teams.
No, yeah, I'm just saying it's just crazy because you could go on and on just to cover a single league nowadays. So that's kind of like my question about the 18 teams. It's wild that you just go deeper and deeper and deeper into the mix of teams. And yeah, here's Oregon playing Nebraska in Big Ten football on a Saturday night. What the hell are we watching nowadays? That's just kind of crazy. It's not something I don't think you ever could have foreseen. Oregon, Nebraska, Big Ten football on whatever network you want to name. But here we are. It's 2024, and that's where we are. So it's going to be so interesting this upcoming season.
All right, when we come back, Craig Smoke, Off the Radar. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Fastest growing pizza brand in America. Bob Mock, the owner, with 5 locations in greater central Texas, around Waco at least. Hewitt, Woodway, Robinson, China Spring, and also Belle Meade. We have had many Marco's pizzas, pies, sent to the studio. We appreciate them. We appreciate Bob Mock, and obviously many people do because it's the fastest growing pizza brand. My favorite is the pepperoni and sausage magnifico. It is covered from head to toe, basically, of a pizza, from corner to corner, side to side, wherever you look, whatever direction, with a ton of pepperoni, not just normal, but a ton of it that covers it, and then it's covered by, with a lot of Italian sausage. They also have sandwiches. They have wings. They have specials online where you can use codes to get 10% off or get a really good price. And they also have, of course, if you want soft drinks, salads, and more. It has what you want when it comes to pizza. That's why it's the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it at marcos.com. Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason, or 2 or 3 reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with any anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
It helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation so you get the best value. You get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
This is Craig Smoke's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. It's a Tuesday at just after 4:45, so Tuesdays and Thursdays is when we get into this segment where we just take a look at some of the non-smokestack headlines that we typically do at the start of the show. A lot of college football-related things and some of the more major stories. This is for some of the stuff that falls through the cracks or we just never get around to, and actually have a pretty big pile of things to get to today. But could also spread it out a little bit if I need to and save some for Thursday. I want to start, though, and take as much time as you want to here. We went to a Rangers game on Friday.
Yeah,
we talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
So for Father's Day, my sister and brother-in-law and I got together, and knowing that Smokey had been wanting to go see the new Rangers ballpark up in Arlington, although now it's like, what, year 4 or 5?
Started in COVID, hosted a World Series.
It's not quite as new as when we initially intended to go, but finally got around to having a pocket of time and ticket availability to where it made sense to go. And so we did that this past Friday night. That's why we weren't here on Friday's show, and got to see them play a really good Baltimore Orioles squad, maybe the best team in the league right now. Gunnar Henderson's freaking amazing, but it's not just him. There's a lot of other guys in that lineup that are really, really good. And that was proven on Friday night as they got out to an early lead and just coasted, basically. The Rangers only mustering a single home run as far as getting on the board. Otherwise, it would have been a shutout. But at least we got to see that. And so I bring that up because we haven't talked about it at all. Paul's been before.
No.
I've been as well.
I've not
Wait,
been.
you have not been?
I've not.
How is that not checked off your list? Weddings and stuff.
Weddings
but
and
like,
stuff.
Damn,
And
okay.
And here's the thing. She would totally, like, if I said, hey, we've got tickets to Rangers versus the Brewers this weekend,
Yeah.
she'd be like, all right.
Well, yeah, dude. Okay, well, that's interesting because you actually have like a board that charts all the places in Major League Baseball you've been. You've been to like half the stadiums.
I had to take the pin out.
Yeah, okay.
I had to take the pin out.
Damn, man.
For legitimacy.
Well, that's shocks me because I just figured that was an easy layup for you to have put on the list so far. Okay, so that's on the to-do list, but you have now been to the new ballpark in Arlington. Globe Life Field is its official name, of course, but what are your thoughts on what you saw on Friday night with the Globe Life Field experience?
I was a huge fan of the ballpark in Arlington, or whatever it became. I just loved the look. It was such a beautiful look. It was also outdoors in real grass, and so when they built the new stadium, and I understand why they went to what would be a retractable roof, although it's very rarely is it open, I was a little bit taken aback about how it looked. It looks like a barn. It looks like, just some kind of something that Pioneer Steel and Pipe would have all the information and material to build.
It looks like a massive backyard
but
shed.
Once we got inside, initially there's the long concourse and then the walkway. Once we got inside where we were walking, I think probably on the second floor of the mezzanine, I looked out into what is the guts of this field and the stadium, and it's freaking gorgeous. I was blown away by it. I could see why I now know why they did it. They got the beat. They were down 4-0 before we sat in our seats. The seats we had were right behind home plate, right at that mezzanine on the railing. It was incredible, thanks to Daniel. But, no, it was memorable. And I had not been. And it's one of those things, I was going to the Rangers game. It's not that hard. They're like an hour and a half up the road. But it was wonderful. Forget the score. I enjoyed it. The only thing that perhaps was a little bit of a disappointment to me was it seemed like there's a lot of congestion at every one of the vendors, even during an inning. I thought, like, for example, I went to go just get to everybody some popcorn and peanuts. I got 2 bags of peanuts. There was no popcorn. And I'm not complaining about that. I mean, there's a lot of people in that stadium, 40,000 or so. I thought it was marvelous. Craig and I, when we were talking about lately college football and money, logos on the field, logos on the jerseys, I counted well over 100 logos or billboards. Used to be in baseball around the outfield wall, and then maybe the scoreboard. I counted without question. I think it might have been well over 130 logos in every place you could put a logo. That's why college football should do what they should do.
Well, they're about to. College basketball is going to do it. College baseball kind of does it with the outfield walls a lot of places, but a lot of them like to look clean. I have a feeling that, a lot of people are going to be running into, Johnny's Sports Bar pads in the left field wall across that in college baseball. But yeah, I can't wait to go. It's long overdue.
Yeah.
I had tickets a couple of years ago to the Red Sox series, but it was late. Like, they didn't come until September. And then the Baylor schedule came out, and they had it was a super late game. It was I think it was that Utah game or where were you, like BYU, where they played out there, and it was a weird kickoff time. And I knew that we were going to be doing the post-game show until 1 o'clock in the morning. So a Sunday noon first pitch was just not going to make it for me. I didn't want to get up and deal with that, so I didn't go. And I thought, I'll get tickets another time, and then didn't.
Yeah,
and 2 years later.
I enjoyed it. I really did. It was Craig, Daniel, Jennifer, and me. And I was very thrilled once I got inside. Once I saw what it looked like inside that building, I was blown away by it, and I went around pretty much every corner you could to get a look, and everybody has a great seat.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. And by the way, next year the Red Sox come in the first 3 games, so if
There
I
you
don't
go.
make it
In
there,
April?
then the end of March and April.
Oh, okay,
so,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you got to see that. I had a really good experience a couple years ago going and seeing them. I think they actually won that game. Unlike this one, they lost 9-1, and it was like 4-0 before we even put butts to seats. So yeah, it was not entertaining from that aspect, but yeah, advertisements galore, and so that was just something I had brought up because I was looking at like every place you could imagine they've got a billboard for something. I was like, and we're sitting here complaining about like a little thing here and there for college football. Like, I get you don't want it to be like NASCAR. It's very much what the Rangers Stadium was like a NASCAR jacket or car. But you see why it's like that because of the money that it brings in, and it only makes sense for college sports to take that step, although that will take some getting used to.
I don't think you'll ever see college stadiums be like
no.
this. But Roger goes, I don't want to see a bunch of billboards. If you're paying the bills, you find ways, especially with college athletics becoming, even though there's, again, no shortage of money, but all of a sudden when you have revenue sharing, that's an extra $15 or $22 million a year that you didn't have to pay. I think you find ways to where do you get some scratch?
And I think it's
billboards can be done in a classy way.
Yeah, they can be, and I think it's like anything else. Like, ultimately, unless you're just looking for them at the Rangers ballpark, they just blend in because there's so many of them. So they just blends in, and you're not even really acknowledging that necessarily. And I think watching them, NBA, the Mavericks in particular, like, I saw their logo on their jersey constantly, but after a while, it just blends in and you get used to it, and it's not that big of a deal. So as long as you don't go gaudy and over the top, but it's definitely a bit gaudy, like the Rangers ballpark with ads, but it's not. It doesn't take away from the experience at all.
I always love the billboards. It reminds me of Little League.
Right,
when you had all the local
That's
businesses.
actually like a pull for some people, yeah.
I still like that. When I drive by a Little League park and I see the various 8 to 12 or 15 local businesses, I like it. There were a lot of logos. They have a lot of money to spend. They spent a bunch of money the last 3 years with Seager and Simeon and others. Find a way to make up for it. The TV money's great, too. They don't have a great regional network because of Bally's. But as far as the stadium, I thought it was absolutely spectacular. And I can't imagine, as you said to me, if you could have been there when Seager hit the bomb against Arizona in the World Series Game 1, what that would have been like, that noise that would have just basically broken your eardrums.
Yeah, that was one of those things you feel like it's almost scripted because, like, how does that dude come up in that situation? Gets me choked up even talking about it. No. How does that dude come up in that situation and hit that home run to extend the game, basically, and then Adolis to hit one later on to win the game? Like, it gets so loud in there, Paul, because it's closed, so it's very cool. And like, it's just, I asked him, I said, like, I know you love the ballpark in Arlington, but do you get it now? Like, do you get why it's indoors? And he's like, oh yeah, like, I mean, because that we'd have been sweating the other night, and it would be like 7th inning, they're getting their ass kicked. It's like, do you want to go ahead and go? And instead, we stay the entire time because it's like, why not? It's just baseball indoors, it's comfortable, and you got everything you need here. So yeah, it was very cool to do that. Meanwhile, in baseball this past weekend, I don't know if you guys watched much of it or not, but I just want to make mention Adrian Beltre officially in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, yep.
Todd Helton, Joe Mauer, Jim Leland, all unveiled Sunday as the newest members of the 2024 class. I know it's not something we get around to talking about much, but that's what this segment is for. So it's cool to see a little clip or two of Adrian's speech, and got to poke at Elvis Andrus, which was a great touch as well. But one of my favorite players ever, certainly Beltre, and I got a lot of great memories of the other 3 as well. But, yeah, that all became official on Sunday, the class of 24.
What struck me about Adrian Beltre, and Smokey and I got to see this 15 feet away when we were at spring training one time, was here was a dude who was as serious about baseball as you could possibly be. And sometimes you see that, like I've seen pro athletes and you watch them and you're like, I don't know how much fun this guy's having. He's really good at this, but doesn't seem like he's having fun playing a game. And, like that, there was something I saw about Dirk Nowitzki too. Like, you watch Dirk Nowitzki work and it's unbelievable, but then you're like, man, this guy's just like, I get to play basketball.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. Adrian Beltre was like that. And Elvis Andrus was his little brother on that team. And they took such joy in infield practice. I mean, they had the most mundane thing they do all day long the two of them had a blast doing it.
They did. There was also fights, though, because, as Adrian said in his speech, that part of the reason Elvis would come over and grab so many fly balls that really weren't his was because he was trying to improve his fielding percentage. So it was an easy way for him to do that. So it would bother Adrian because Elvis would come try to grab that fly ball that should be his because he wants to boost his fielding percentage. But that was the camaraderie and the back and forth with those two for sure. They had a lot of fun.
We had some fun watching them back in the day, early on, as Paul said, at Rangers camp in Surprise. And they were always in each other's business and in a fun-loving way, but very competitive. And it showed. It was great that he pointed him out during his speech.
We interviewed Elvis Andrus one time, and over one shoulder is something I don't ever want to talk about or think about again. And then over the other shoulder, or like behind him, Mike Napoli.
Oh.
And I'm not going to go any further than that. But behind, I didn't realize it until after because Elvis kind of kept giggling at random times during the interview, and I couldn't figure out why because we were just so engaged in it. And then when we got done and like shook his hand, I turned around and Beltre was just staring at him the whole time, like, trying to make him laugh.
Yep. Trying to get him to cut up.
The whole time. I thought, well, I wish I'd have been looking that way instead of this other way.
Beltre was very approachable, although you kind of had to make sure you found the right time. He could give you that look, but Andrus was as accessible as any player I think I've ever interviewed in Rangers history, and always was a great 15-minute interview. But that's all. Oh, my God, Adrian Beltre, thank God he's in.
Yeah, no, just very happy to see that. We're all clearly big fans of his, and just great to see him still around the franchise. He was around as they won the World Series last year. So were a lot. Ian Kinsler was around, and Elvis is still welcomed, even though his career has continued on. But there's a little bit of baseball, and now transitioning over to a little bit of other news. Actually, want to make mention first of the WNBA, and this is not a Caitlin Clark, podium thing or an Angel Reese. Like every time I see it, it's talking about one of those two, or it's talking about the success of the league. And that is what I want to point out here because that part is undeniable, and just making mention of the fact that they had their All-Star game this past week. I know Paul's going to have a full breakdown of that later on, all the X's and O's and everything from that. But the largest audience since their opening weekend of play, not this season, but since the league started in June of 1997, the largest audience they've ever had for a WNBA broadcast, 3.44 million viewers on ABC. Largest audience since the second day of play in June 97 when the Sting and Mercury faced off in front of 3.59 million viewers on NBC. Only that game and the very first game ever in the league's history, Liberty Sparks, which got a little over 5 million, had bigger audiences than the All-Star game this past week. So previous record was 1.44 million for 2003's broadcast. 2 million more than that one. First to, and that was also the first to air on broadcast. This all courtesy of Sports Media Watch. Peaked at 4.05 million viewers. Top TV program, adults 18 to 49, 25 to 54. Don't want to get too in the weeds on all of that, but had higher ratings than the NHL All-Star Game, for example, although airing at different times, and competed pretty well considering the past numbers and considering, the men's games and what they usually attract. So only like 1 million behind the NBA All-Star Game, a couple million behind the NFL Pro Bowl. And I know those aren't the biggest attractions in the world, but point being, I'm not going to dive into the PTI of Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark probably ever in this segment because I just find it all very manufactured and kind of silly. But it is one of many elements, and those two names in particular, that are bringing some extra attention, and that's undeniable, and that's spoken through the TV ratings. So a big number there for the WNBA All-Star Game, which was interesting to see. Meanwhile, and we'll see how that keeps up. I mean, they're both rookies, and there's others as well, but that's healthy. That's healthy to see that for them.
Look, they've got to make this their magic and bird.
Oh, yeah.
They have to, and I think they're doing a good job of it so far. One of the things that's happened is I think in the last decade, the talent's gotten a lot better and deeper around the country as far as college basketball goes. Because you're starting to see other teams win it. There's actual upsets in college, and that translates well to the pro game. And
you could always think Baylor and Brittany Griner Kim Mulkey for losing to Louisville that opened up the floodgates.
I do think that Brittany Griner was the flashpoint for this because she was the first time in my life. And I know, I wasn't old enough to know, when Cheryl Miller or Cheryl Swoops or when they had their great runs, but
they were awesome.
They were great. But when we would go follow around that Brittany Griner team, and there were little girls everywhere that wanted to see Brittany Griner, and that was a kind of a new thing. And that was just a decade or so ago. And then you have this generation of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and some bona fide stars that people care about. Yeah. And
they're not just stars; they're personalities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
they're not just. There's the Bird Magic comparison, but there's the rivalry element there, and so take full advantage of this magic moment. It feels like you've stumbled upon with those two, and then there's others as well. They're the two that get the most headlines because they're the most popular. But if you kind of see it sometimes, I know. Still, I don't care about the WNBA. There's plenty of those folks, but it's undeniable that there's renewed and greater interest in the game now than there has been in 20-plus years, and that's evident by these all-star numbers. So big numbers for the WNBA all-star game, and you can thank Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and others for that mark. So we'll see how they keep up that momentum. Meanwhile, on the TV front, it's very interesting because we've got all this conference realignment talk and talks about TV slots and all these different things. I'm sure Paul's already seen this, but Apple TV is about to undergo some changes. Apple TV is the home of MLB. They're the home of MLS. They also were going to be the home of the Pac-12 had the schools decided to go that route and go more of the streaming is the future and we'll get a percentage of subscriptions and all of that. They obviously decided to do something different. And go more traditional, and that led to the league fracturing into multiple pieces. But I wonder how that would have been viewed in light of this news. Had they signed that deal, I guess they would have been okay, but it does make you wonder now where Apple is in the grand scheme of things as far as sports, and if this is something that's going to make them retract or actually go even further in to sports as they have announced that they are going to cut back on their TV spending, in particular their scripted shows, which they have. If you have Apple TV or had the free trial or whatever, they have 1 billion shows that are all originals. They've got some really good shows. Ted Lasso is one that you've definitely heard about, amongst various others. But they plan on cutting back on their TV spending. They spent over $20 billion since their launch on TV and movie originals. So the problem there is that they currently have less views in a month than Netflix does in a day, and yet they've spent $20 billion in the last few years on programming. So just a little note as we get into conference realignment and who streams and who's where and what platform. I don't know what this means for sports because I don't think they're going to obviously ditch their contracts with MLB and MLS, but they're cutting back, so that's just something to monitor and keep an eye on.
Absolutely interesting. I will tell you this: as long as they don't touch Severance, which I just read had a $20 million per episode budget, which is an excellent show, which won't go on forever. It's like it's one of those things that's going to be pretty finite. But as long as they don't touch Severance, and there's going to be stuff that's wrapping up. The Lasso's done, all that stuff. That's fine. I think that it probably is good news for sports because sports will have some of that money, and it's not like there is,
Well, what else are you going to if you're not going to do the big, expensive originals? You're not just going to throw like old Nick at Night reruns on there or old Big Bang Theory episodes. You're going to have to do something. So I would think this could be the pendulum swinging in the direction of more bang for your buck, which would mean live sports, perhaps. And if you're leagues out there trying to find new places to come to agreements with to air these games, especially as conferences get bigger and you run out of TV slots, maybe Apple is there to fill it in. They were obviously interested in the Pac-12, so just interesting, something to note in the TV game as they cut back tremendously on their spending on original television programming. All right, I got a couple of tweets here, and then we'll bail out, or do we need to go here?
No, I think we're okay.
You go, I have not made contact with Joe, so I'll call him as soon as we hit the break.
Okay, Garrett, let's do the ULM tweet here. We'll get that one up first. We've mentioned uniform news as it's come across here and there, but this one I happened to come across earlier today, and it is the new ULM helmet that is inspired by the inspiration behind their Warhawks name. You grew up in a time where they were not the Warhawks. Up until a few years ago,
Raging Red or something.
It was
Cajun?
the Indians.
Indians,
It was
yeah,
the ULM Indians, and now they've been the Warhawks for the last few years. But this is inspired by the P40s, which were the Warhawks, where their name came from after they said, like, we got to change. They actually tried to pull the Florida State of, like, no, it's cool, we can keep the name, and they were shut down. They're like, no, you got to change the name. And so they end up with the Warhawks. There's a backstory there behind it of a pilot and his relationship with ULM that I'll save for another day. Claire Chenault, Major General, he was a Louisiana resident, and he helped inspire the Warhawks nickname when they chose to go that route. But there is their new helmet they debuted today that's inspired by the P40 Warhawk. I think that's pretty cool looking. I don't know about you guys, but I think that's pretty sweet looking.
Oh, the P40 Warhawk was a great plane. Great plane. Yeah. So, won a lot of stuff for us. So,
go USA.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm looking at pictures right now. And that, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's what I thought of. Like, I've seen that in a World War II documentary before. That right there. So, yeah, that's very cool. I love that.
Yeah, so there's that. That's just a cool helmet. I wanted to throw some uniform stuff in there whenever I can, and I definitely – are you on board with that one, Garrett? I know you –
I do like this one.
Okay,
I like this
you do
one a
like
lot.
yeah.
There's some I'm not really cool with, but this one I think is perfect for them. Yeah. And then it's good reflective of the original where it comes from.
Yeah, definitely lean into that Warhawk motif, and they've done that there. And all right, wrap it up with this. You know, the Big 12 and WWE have that relationship going back a couple of years now, thanks in part to the Endeavor. I guess it's not a collaboration. It's just they both have a partnership with Endeavor, I guess is the best way to put it. Well, now look at what this has created. The Southland Conference has aligned with AEW, All Elite Wrestling, which is the number 2 promotion. It's nowhere close to the WWE, but it is the clear number 2 in this country. And so they have come to an agreement with the Southland Conference to have custom championship belts for their championship winners. So like we saw Quinn Ewers get the belt delivered by The Undertaker. I don't know if that means that like Kenny Omega will be given, the title over to whoever that might be for the Southland Conference, but just interesting to see another tie-in. And it is kind of like it's fitting. The Big 12 is a bigger conference. They get the WWE. And if you were to do like what would be the Southland equivalent of that, it would be AEW. So I'm an AEW fan. I'm a wrestling fan, but I just thought that was kind of cool. We're more pro wrestling crossover with championship belts in college football now.
Yeah.
In college sports.
There we go. I wonder. Well, I mean, now you're running out of it. What's the NXT? Is that the one in Japan?
Well, no, NXT is under the WWE umbrella. Okay. So that would be more Big 12-ish. I think you could go like TNA for which people are like, TNA, they're not thinking of pro wrestling. But, I don't know what conference, like if the American wanted to suit up with the TNA belt or something, I guess they could do that. But, just interesting to see somebody else follow in the lead of the Big 12 and the WWE partnership right there. And then, meanwhile, we'll close it out with this. EA Sports College Football 25 came out officially just a couple of days ago. I guess it's Friday, I think, when it officially released. I just picked up my copy yesterday and just scratching the surface on it. And Garrett said he's played it's way harder.
I'm terrible.
You're bad.
When it comes to defense, I am pathetic.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. But I was curious, so I looked it up of just how successful is the game so far, because there's been so much promotion behind it, so much talk about it. Last I saw, this was as of a day ago, EA Sports College Football 25 has sold over 2 million copies of just its premium edition, which was the early access that you got 3 days ahead of everybody else. On Friday, the publisher EA Sports announced that 2.2 million players had gained early access to the game. I have not seen an update on that as of yet, but they are apparently already going past a bunch of different milestones when it comes to the sales of whatever the various versions are. Number 3 in daily active users in the U.S. on Xbox, 4th on PS5 behind a lot of the shooting games. But well over 2 million copies sold already. That was just the pre-launch edition, so I'm interested to update you guys in about a month when they, everybody gets their wind underneath them and gets time to order the game and see where that is. But it looks like a very successful start for that franchise.
I know we do need to move on here in a second, but what did Matt Brown think that the numbers would be? Did he ever say in millions? I can't remember what he said.
I think he mentioned in a tweet that it was over what he thought. I don't know how much more, but at least for the launch.
Well, I know from the beginning he said it would not reach Madden numbers, right? But
No.
I just think that the delay, the long wait, probably boosted those numbers quite a bit. So how many were early?
It looked like a little over about 2.2 million played the game in early access, which was 3 days prior to the official release. So I haven't seen any update from the official launch, but they're already setting some pretty high marks, and that should be just a great sign of what's to come as they get their feet underneath them. But there's a few things off the radar.
The funniest college football tweet I've seen all summer was the other day when Joe Biden dropped out of the race, and somebody tweeted out, College Football 25 comes out last week and Joe Biden drops out of the race on Sunday. Tell me there's not a correlation.
Yeah, there you go.
He's on the sticks.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back a little bit later in the hour, John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist, who tomorrow hosts that luncheon with Hall of Famer and great Joe Greene. Also, Paul's Top 5 around the corner. This is 365 Sports.
Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco is where I get my cigars. 48-foot walk-in humidor with all of the great brands, nationally and internationally, the best elite brands around the world. And how about this email from owner Josh Caldwell, who told me about a couple that drove in from Fort Worth to Waco purely based on listening and hearing me talk about Don Humidor. They have a pipe that's a bit of a family heirloom that needed to be repaired. They made the special trip to Don's after listening to 365 Sports, finding out we are one of the only shops left that can help them with the pipe. Not only are they going to fix the pipe, and they did, they also bought a new setup, complete with pipe, stand, and some sample tobaccos. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center, just between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor, great cigars, even what you need when it comes to smoking pipes and repair, and fresh coffee beans. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with Cheyenne and Josh in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Make this the summer of Ram at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home in a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star for just 2.9% for 72 months with no payments for 90 days. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off at Allen Samuels.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments. With financial advisor Brad Wilson, investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, this is a topic we'll get to about Star Power 2024. There's an article in theathletic.com today about the SEC. We'll get to that in a moment. Here's the latest Heisman Trophy odds. College football focus. Dylan Gabriel, remember, kind of jumped into the lead. Still there. Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart, Will Howard, Jalen Milroe, Imalieva, and Nussmeier's pretty high for LSU's quarterback, and then Cam Ward from Miami. Those are the top, at least at this particular time.
Yeah,
What variety?
Yeah, let's see.
All quarterbacks.
All quarterbacks, and that does suck. The days of a Tim Brown or a Johnny Rodgers or a Charles Woodson that could kind of get inside that mix, or a damn good running back.
I'll give you. I'm going to rattle off 5 guys off the top of my head who I'd put on this list over 5 other guys right now, and I would say Luther Burden,
Missouri wide receiver.
Quinshon Judkins, although he's going to have to share all the time, I don't think he's going to share as much as people think. I would put him over his own teammate, Will Howard, on that list. I'll tell you that Ashton Jeanty has a great shot at being a Heisman candidate because he's going to have a ton of yards.
I know, but he's not.
He's not. But I'm talking about candidates here.
Yeah, he's going to have to be okay.
Yeah,
he's going to have to be Marshall Faulk the year he was at San Diego State.
But he'll get more votes than half the people on this list by the end of it. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, he's a guest of ours tomorrow, by the way.
And let's see. I said 5. I've got to deliver on that. Jeez. Okay, Nick Martinez at Miami too. I mean, he's going to have a ton of touchdowns this year. Damian Martinez, thank you. And then,
well, you came in strong.
I came in strong.
How about Ollie Gordon?
Ollie Gordon, thank you. Yeah,
since
he was last year. Yeah, thank you.
God, Wet Blanket is having a seizure right now. Mm-hmm. Just upset about that.
And I came at him with Alan Bowman yesterday in the top 5.
Oh my God. All right, so there you are. Now I got a question for you guys.
Well, I got a thing I want you to do first here, because we're going to be talking about Tennessee's quarterback for a good bit. So here's how you pronounce it, fellas: Ia Maleava.
Ia Maleava.
Ia Maleava.
Ia Maleava.
Ia Maleava.
He and DJ.
Uyunglele. We learned that one last year.
Uyunglele.
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 No. Uyunglele.
Uyunglele. Okay.
No, you're missing the lele.
Say it again.
Uyunglele.
Lele. Okay.
Uyunglele.
Okay.
See how that just rolls off the tongue, though? Like, once you
Why
get
couldn't
it,
those guys just play nose tackle or
once
something
you get
like
it, once you get Uyunglele,
yeah.
Okay.
But DJU is very, like, if you just want to, like, skip, you're like, yeah, it's just DJU, and everybody knows who you're talking
it's
about.
like the Navy football coach for now at Fresno.
Coach Ken. We know why you're saying Coach Ken, is because you don't know how to say his name.
But Iamaleava's name rolls off a lot faster when you say his first name, because you say Nico Iamaleava, it's better. I don't think I'll ever just say his last name.
What if his first name was Bill?
Even Bill. Bill Imaliava. Nico Imaliava is a great name.
Imaliava, okay. All right, so thank you, Craig, for getting that right. And correct me again the next time I have to say his name. And that's disrespectful.
Nico I is going to be who we're talking about.
All right, so this is interesting. This is something that's off the top. We have John McLean around the corner. I have not given you guys any heads up on this, which I love to do because it's frustrating to you. But last year, the Pac-12 had the following 8 dogs at quarterback, and I don't think I've missed anybody. Fafita, Nix, Penix, Shador, DJ, Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, and Shador Sanders.
You said Shador twice.
Okay, then 7. I don't think I forgot anybody among those because Cam Rising didn't play, and take that list, and I thought it was 8. Take that list and tell me which is a better list. Karsten Beck, Brady Cook, Jackson Dart, Nico Imaliava, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, and then you could throw in Nussmeier and Wiegman. To me, I thought the Pac-12 still had more star power.
I think the Pac-12.
I think the Pac-12.
Yeah.
But it's close, isn't it?
I mean, when you got Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix, I can maybe even stop there. You know, those are three great college quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Shadur's not great yet. He's very talented.
He puts up big
stats. Numbers.
But you know what? Bet for better or worse, must-watch TV. I know it's not just him, but he too, with his own personality, much like his father, it makes you want to watch him to either see him win and be great or to see him fall on his face and get sacked 6 times.
Yeah. If he doesn't get sacked more than a couple of times a game, they're going to be really, really
They
good.
ought to be, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that they can be. Like, there are quarterback like Taylor Green at Arkansas. He had a really good, career at Boise, and obviously they're facing a lot of pressure with Sam Pittman there. But I think he's a good player that's not going to be in that headlining group of the SEC quarterbacks that you mentioned. And there's others like that could end up being better than we expected. I mean, Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. I know you don't expect him to win games, but he was a really good quarterback at New Mexico State. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do just to make things interesting for the Commodores. But having said that, give me the Pac-12 last year all day, every day on this question. Like, maybe we revisit this in December, and there's been a bunch of guys who have had huge years like Quinn Ewers or something.
Because we've seen the other guys.
The other guys, we've seen them, and that's big shoes to fill. So I'm nowhere close to thinking that the SEC guys are ready to match up with the Pac-12 guys.
If Beck, Dart, Imaliava and Quinn Ewers and Milroe, though, are all high level.
Yeah, sure.
Then we have, and then Paul told me not to forget Graham Mertz.
Oh, I mean,
of course, he's got to mention those Gators.
His 3 years of wins equal 1 year of Caleb Williams.
If it doesn't work out, then it gets really interesting though in Gainesville at the quarterback position.
No, you're right.
Old DJ Lagway, that'd be something that could turn that whole talk around as far as interest in the quarterback position. But that's just a compliment to the Pac-12. If you're going to go out and die, a painful death as a conference, like that was one hell of a way to do it outside of not winning the national championship.
Team played for the national title, and they had some unbelievable players involved in that Heisman Trophy conversation. All right, when you're a Hall of Famer, you pretty much get to do whatever you want. And John McLean.
I can't believe you didn't mention Blake Shapen with the SEC quarterbacks, by the way.
Yeah.
Blake Shapen erasure.
There is a tweet that was out just about in the last hour. Jacob Zeno, Gary Bohannon, Tyron Drones, and Blake Shapen all kind of together, and all of them former Baylor starters at this time or whatever time
Thank
it was.
you, COVID year.
All right, we're now joined Hall of Famer John McLean tomorrow at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame great, legendary Joe Greene. He'll be a part of emceeing that luncheon, but also was in San Antonio. Texas the Texas High School Football Coaches Association. John, thanks for your time. How did that go today?
It went great. First of all, I got to tell y'all a DJ Lagway story. When he was at Willis, of course, he last year voted as the best high school quarterback in Texas. Of course, he's one of the best in the nation. He committed to Florida, and his dad went to Baylor, and everybody's hoping he'd go to Baylor, but Florida pays obscene amounts of money for players. And I met Derek and DJ at the Texas Bowl, where he got an award for the high school player of the year. And we were about to go back up to our Gridiron Legends suite. And I went over and introduced myself to them. And they couldn't have been nicer. And I told them, I said, by the way, if you decide to leave Florida, keep in mind Baylor is now jumped feet first into the NIL program. And Baylor's going to be paying a lot of money. So if you transfer from Florida, give your daddy's alma mater a shot. And of course, they just laughed and smiled. And so at least I got my point into him about Baylor doing it, which they proved with getting all these highly rated prospects for 2025. I had a blast at the coaching school. I hadn't been since Hollis Biddle and Dave Campbell sent me my first year working for the Trib in 1973. And I remember coming to Houston, and all I can remember writing was I saw 20,000 light blue leisure suits and 40,000 white shoes. That was the style back then. Now it was a little different. And the Texans sponsored several things there. And one of them was the panel of all Division I college coaches. I found that very interesting. Craig Wade, voice of the Longhorns, hosted it, and they talked for about an hour. David Randall was asked 2 or 3 questions, and it was very interesting watching those coaches and their personalities. And then yesterday, I hosted one in which it was such an honor. It was Jackie Sherrill, Wade Phillips, Ken Houston, the greatest strong safety in history, Michael Bishop, went in the College Football Hall of Fame last year, and then 2 longtime high school coaches and administrators in Houston. And I pointed out about Michael Bishop, his claim to fame wasn't finishing second to Ricky Williams in the Heisman balloting or helping K-State get second in the country, or only losing 3 games from his senior year through 2 years at Glenn and 2 years at K-State, 6 games. It was that in 2000, he was the backup quarterback in New England, and the third string quarterback was a guy named Brady, a rookie. And I told Michael, no matter what happens to you in your career, you always have that claim to fame, because I think most people just think Brady was right there ready to be the heir apparent to Drew Bledsoe when Bledsoe got hurt in 2001, and the rest was history. So it was fun doing that. They were all great. I talked to all of them about the NIL, the transfer portal. Everybody hates the portal, of course, and the effect on high school coaches, because kids are getting paid today. Kids are getting paid in high school. Their parents want money. How do high school coaches navigate that? And all of them had a lot of great ideas, and it was very funny. And I told the people there, I said, Jackie Sherrill invented NIL when he was at Pitt, carried it to Texas A&M, and on to Mississippi State. And some of them actually got it.
We mentioned this, by the way, about Michael Bishop. He was on our show yesterday, John, and Paul brought up the fact if you went to training camp back then and you saw Michael Bishop throwing next to Tom Brady, as good as a laser thrower as he was, and efficient and obviously great. But if you saw the two of them together throwing the football, you would probably go, okay, that's the Bishop's the number one prospect, and Brady is the guy that might make the team.
Absolutely. He was skinny. There's that famous combine picture in which he was a beanpole. He ran the 40 in like 7 flat, and he didn't have a great arm. He just worked his tail off to get bigger, stronger, and increase his velocity. But, of course, what set him apart was the mental toughness and how smart he was. And then Michael had, I think, 2 years there. His last year was when Brady's rookie year. But Michael's had a tremendous career, and I tell you, I need your help next year. He's this year my project to get in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Ed Tootal Jones. Next year it's going to be Michael Bishop.
That's awesome. Yeah.
John, NFL training camps are underway. The Cowboys still have not done anything contractually. Jordan Love is now holding out. And if he wants $50 a year, given that he just kicked Dak Prescott's ass in a playoff game, does that mean that Dak will get more, even though because he's longer tenured and maybe pushing $60 million a year?
Well, I think he'll get more, because if they don't, he walks away for nothing except a compensatory pick the next year, which would probably be a 3rd rounder. So in essence, you'd be trading him for a 3 with no answer, unless they think one of those 2 backups is going to be the answer. And we've talked about this before. At Jerry Jones' age, he don't want to start over with a rookie. You know, they did a great job scouting Dak, getting him in the 4th round. Tremendous job. And he's been really good. He's been great in regular season. Number 2 MVP last year, number 1 in touchdown passes, but he hasn't done it in the postseason. And I think that he'll sign for close to $60 million. And Jordan Love, you know, he had that great stretch, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions over his last 9 games. And you're going to give $55 million to a guy that has just had one stretch like that. Now, you've seen him at every practice, every game, every meeting. You know him better than everybody. And from all indications, he has everything you want mentally and physically to be your franchise quarterback. But still, you know, Trevor Lawrence got his $55 million, but they've seen him 3 years as a starter. So Love's going to get his money because quarterbacks do get their money. And I was talking about this on a couple other shows. No team has done a worse job of negotiating quarterback salaries than the Cowboys have done with Dak Prescott going back to before his rookie year expired. They have just done a terrible job, and now they're going to have to pay more money to any quarterback in history, or just let him walk. And a lot of fans, I know, well, let him go. Yeah, they can get somebody else winning the playoffs. So, well, who? Well, they got to get a Kirk Cousins type. I said, Kirk Cousins had won in the playoffs. Give me a break. He's exactly like Dak Prescott. So, anyway, I think they'll get it done at some point. But, boy, if they don't get it done before the season, and it's already a distraction. CeeDee Lamb's a distraction. And then Micah Parsons probably will be a distraction next year, and that's what the Cowboys do not need is a distraction, another distraction.
John, the Texans don't have to worry about their quarterback of the future. They've got him in C.J. Stroud, and, eventually that bill will come due for them as well, and it'll be a big one, especially if he keeps upping his performance from just a year ago. How can he do that in your mind? How can he be better this year than he was last year?
Well, they've given him every weapon that they can come up with. Nick Caserio, the GM, who took over here and turned that, just tore it down to the foundation like the McNair's asked him to, and he's done a tremendous job of acquiring talent. And other than San Francisco, the Texans are right there with the Lions, having the second best group of receivers, tight end, running backs. He has every weapon. Now, I've seen some people rate the Texans' offensive line as high as 11 or 14. I said, my God, if you watched this team last year, offensive line was decimated by injuries. They had 11 different starting offensive linemen. They lost 3 for the season, and yet they only have one offensive vacancy, and that's left guard, where Kenyon Green, the Aggie, missed all last season after starting as a rookie. They need him to be what they thought he was when they took him with a 15th overall pick 2 years ago. And that's it. They've got some jobs, I think, open on defense, which is one reason they loaded up on defense. But they're going up against some really good defenses because they play a first-place schedule, 5 defending division champions, 11 games against teams with winning records, and great quarterbacks and good running backs and good defenses. So he has to take advantage of his weapons. I'm writing a column Thursday for HoustonTexans.com on all the players and coaches talking about the leadership he's showing that he didn't show as a rookie because he's comfortable now, and what that entails and why it's important to what you want to do. But with his group of receivers, with Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, tight end Dalton Schultz, the Texans love him, re-signed him to a new contract, added Joe Mixon, who's averaged 12.5 touchdowns over the last 4 seasons, and is a really good receiver, barring catastrophic injuries, which they were able to, because of Stroud, they were able to overcome those debilitating injuries on the offensive line last year. They can stay reasonably healthy. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl contender like everybody else, but they can be better than 10 wins.
John, Jason Wright out in Washington with the Commanders. He was kind of a breath of fresh air during the transition. Obviously, Daniel Snyder, and now with Harris, the owner, and Magic, etc. Was this something that he helped them through the transition that was going to happen no matter what?
I don't think anybody saw this, David, and he gave them a touch of class at a time when all the class they had was third with Daniel Snyder. And so I don't think anybody saw this, but anytime you have a new owner, he's going to want his people. So you start at the top. He's probably got somebody in mind that he wants to be his president. And then if they don't show the kind of improvement he wants to see, at some point he's going to want a GM. He's going to want another coach. So it starts at the top. Wright will get another job. He applied and interviewed for the Packers presidency. I kind of think when that got out, people saw the handwriting on the wall. I'm guessing he was told this after the season, or that he could take all the time he wanted, but he needed to get another job.
John, your thoughts, you mentioned this a minute ago, speaking about DJ Lagway, but Baylor in the last month has obviously had a great run when it comes to recruiting class of 2025. They still need to keep them when they sign, hopefully when everyone does in December, no matter what program. But it's as if they waited and they just weren't ready to jump into it, and now they've gone full head of steam. And your thoughts about them waking up and getting this done?
Yeah, Dave Aranda made a grievous error thinking you could win without participating fully in the NIL program. As he said it, Big 12 media days where you guys were. You know, they're paying players. It's legal. You got to do it. And the competition is fierce, and it's out of control is what it is. And hopefully they can get them. They can keep them because Baylor alums I know in Houston and people I knew at the coaching school, all of them were talking about Baylor's recruiting. And people are pumped about it. Unfortunately, we got to wait for those guys for 2025, and hopefully they can keep it up.
One of our great sponsors, GXG, was there doing whatever they could, and now John Passavant, and Jeremy Fudge are heavily involved in what they've been able to do to get done when it comes to GXG and NIL Collective.
You got to have a collective with people who know what they're doing and understand the situation, how to take advantage of it, what to avoid, because it is so complicated. Those collectives do a tremendous job, and obviously Baylor's is doing a unbelievable job.
Yeah, and also having the coaches they have on staff and what Keenan Hall's done up in Dallas, among others. Your thoughts tomorrow, the great Joe Greene. We were going to try to get him on today, but it was too late when he called me back. Maybe we'll get him on tomorrow afternoon, but the great Joe Greene, that luncheon tomorrow at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame.
Because I've got an hour with him, and his brother-in-law, Ken Houston, will be there, and some of his friends coming up from Houston. Joe is a gridiron legend of Texas. He's married to Ken Houston's sister-in-law, Charlotte, and they come down to Houston a lot to participate in charity events. And we're going to talk about going up in Temple, how he played in segregation at Dunbar High School. And when they played at white stadiums, they weren't allowed to use the locker room. So they had to halftime sometimes in the rain in the end zone. And what that was like is just unbelievable what he went through. And then the origin of his nickname, Mean Joe, of course, was North Texas. And then he made the most famous to me still, his celebrity endorsement that ran on Monday Night Football in 1979 for Coke. And we're going to talk about that and what he went through doing that. And they reenacted it recently. And then, of course, we'll talk about it beating the Cowboys in 2 Super Bowls, beating the Oilers in 2 AFC championship games, how painful that was for fans of Texas. And I'm really looking forward to taking this trip down memory lane with the greatest defensive tackle in NFL history.
John, in case we don't get him tomorrow, will you ask him this? Leroy Coleman told me he went on the bus and shoved an ice cream cone in a guy's face after he taunted him after a game. I would like to know if that story is true or if even Leroy Coleman made it a legend.
Well, I'll ask him, and there's a lot of stories about Joe, and, he never accepted his nickname, Mean Joe. I watched the thing on NFL Network last week on the Steelers in 2016, and it talked about how he did not acknowledge that nickname, and then they showed pictures of them knocking people down, kicking them, shoving them backward over other players. It was hilarious. But I'm really pumped. I hope we have a big crowd. And it's such an honor to be invited to do that by Jay Black and everybody over at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, which, of course, I'm like you guys, it's one of my favorite organizations.
Yeah, and I saw what Wade Phillips, you put up a note about being there yesterday, the one today, tomorrow with Joe Greene, and Wade Phillips said great people get involved in being a part of great events. So congratulations on that. I know you know Wade is about as well as everybody or about as well as anybody. John, thank you very much. Good luck with your event tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Sick 'em Bears.
John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist, hosting that at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame tomorrow with the legendary Joe Greene. Maybe the most famous TV commercial from an NFL player Mahomes has got a bunch going on now, and we've seen others, but that one with the jersey, the one with the jersey and Coca-Cola and the kid was just legendary. I wish they'd just play it just for the hell of it, because it was so innocent and so cool.
Coke could save a crap load of money.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't have to produce anything. Just run that one every year.
Sometimes companies do that
Budweiser and the
during
Clydesdales.
Christmas.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Every Christmas, it's just that same one from 1994.
Yep, that's absolutely. It's just like Emery's favorite beer when they run the Busch beer commercials, too.
Head to the mountains.
Head to the mountains. And they got that voice in the song. All right, we're tomorrow, by the way, 3 to 6. We have Boise State star Ashton Jeanty. I'm recording an interview with the great Phil Steele, who has Phil Steele's college football magazine, Jeff Traylor, former Michigan tight end, and also Big Ten Network analyst Jake Butt, and Connor O'Gara on many things college football. That's tomorrow, plus, of course, every day, Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports, and, in fact, the Top 5 is now.
Celebrate American quality and value during the Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr. Drive the best. Get professional-grade power and first-class interior in a GMC Sierra. Qualified buyers save $9,000 on all 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with qualified trade-in. Military and first responders save an extra $500. Plus, find Red, White, and Blue savings tags on vehicles all over the lot. Drive home American quality and value during our Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr. They have the truck for you.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLean County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5. And I do not have a funny hello for you. Guess what? Your problem, not mine. I'm sorry, that was very angry. I'll have one for you tomorrow. But we're, of course, brought to you by TexasBeefHouse.com. Go to their website. SICM10 is our promo code. Take 10% off of your order. Top 5 things ahead for ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips. Yesterday, he came out strong. He came out of fighting, which you can't accuse him of having his head in the sand anymore. Let's talk about what's ahead for him. Number 5. Finding some money. He didn't mention private equity, and he certainly didn't mention it. And if he did, he wouldn't mention it with the zeal of, say, Brett Yormark, who did several times throughout interviews and press conferences at Big 12 Media Days a couple weeks ago. Jim Phillips mentioned it, or didn't mention it at all. But I do think that private equity in the ACC is a thing he's going to look into and probably has to, whether or not Florida State and Clemson are leaving anytime soon. He's got to find some money to make everybody else happy so that maybe he can keep most of the league together and keep the losses to 2 to 4 teams as opposed to what could be 8 if it gets really catastrophic for the ACC. Number 4, improving the reach of the ACC network. There's been a lot of talk about the ACC network and why they're not as good as the SEC network. Now, look, you can luck into a Feinbaum like the SEC clearly did. Or you can create some things that make it more interesting and promote it more. So that's on their TV partner for as long as ESPN is in, whether that's until 2027 when they can opt out, and they have to tell them in February of 2025, or that's getting them to do more, or you finding ways to make more and being better and being more compelling. But they have to improve the reach of the ACC network, because if you want to even get close to what the SEC and Big Ten are doing, that's the key, in that the ACC network, pretty much everybody has it, but nobody watches it. But you have to improve what's on it, make compelling programming for it that people are going to watch instead. What Paul Feinbaum brings is people who love to watch him and people who hate to watch him and everybody in between. Even if you're not a fan of the SEC, a lot of people know who Paul Feinbaum is. And they have that in spades at the SEC network. They, do not have it at the ACC network. Number 3, find out who's really in the foxhole. Who are the schools that are committed to your league long term? Who is really committed to you, and who are the big dogs among that? Because we know Florida State and Clemson are not committed long term. UNC is probably not committed long term if they have other options. Who outside of that? Is it NC State, Virginia? Who else is looking? Who else wants to be out, and who is better served being in? That will determine how you can move forward if you have a path forward once FSU and Clemson get out. Bottom line, that's what you have to do, is find out who's really with you. And that might be actually the hardest thing he has to do, because nobody's really going to tell you, because you're only as loyal as your options. So the ones that are really going to be loyal are the ones without options, and the ones without options aren't the ones who are going to help you make a better TV deal. So it might be a little bit of a catch-22, but this is where he really has to find out where they are and who's really in the foxhole with him. And somebody who might be in the foxhole with him doesn't realize the other conference commissioners might not want this problem, because if Florida State and Clemson are out in the water and there's more, then they've got to go find more money. It's a lot more work for them. They've got to try to make this work. If it's not part of their master plan and they just have to react to it, it may wind up backfiring on everybody. Florida State and Clemson, you should listen to that especially Florida State. Number 2, find out who else is out there. Send out the bat signal. Find out who really helps you. Is it Memphis? Is it Boise State? Is it the Pac-2? Is it USF? Those kind of schools. Who can help you? I would say Memphis would help out the ACC tremendously, so much so as to say that I think Memphis, had their FedEx thing and the Liberty Bowl and all that been remodeled and ready to go, Memphis helps them out more right now than Stanford and Cal do. I mean, that's right now. Don't get in, all 12 Stanford and Cal fans who watch this show or who exist. Don't get your panties in a wad. I'm not disrespecting you. But right now, Memphis is doubling down as where your schools are not necessarily doing that, which is why you find yourself living on the Pacific Coast and playing all your games on the Atlantic Coast. That's why. USF, ready to go. Need to, build an on-campus stadium, which they will do. But they also play in the Ray J there in Tampa, so they're fine. Boise State, ready to go. Pac-2, ready to go to be partners with West Coast. You have options. Now, does that help you, or does that help you just stay alive if ESPN opts into the deal to keep the ACC TV network going until 2036? Number 1, win some lawsuits. And yeah, you might need Saul Goodman to do it. But you got to win some lawsuits. Or if you don't win, make sure the outcome is mostly acceptable. Make sure that you get almost everything you need. Not everything you want, but everything you need. Because everything you want is Florida State and Clemson to stop talking and work this out long term. That, not going to happen. Not going to happen Or if it does, we'll all be shocked. But you've got to win some lawsuits, get some of the things you need, and then move on with your life. So that's what's ahead for Jim Phillips. I do actually wish him the best of luck. As much crap as I talked about him in the wake of Florida State getting snubbed, I wish him the best of luck. The ACC deserves to stay together. All those schools deserve it. They deserve more money. The Big 12 deserves more money. All the conferences that are not the Power 2 deserve more money and deserve more than they've gotten in all this. And they've gotten a really short end of the stick. And I'm happy that Jim Phillips got up to the microphone and said, I'm going to fight, and did not do the George Kliavkoff thing. It's like, we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Everybody chill. We're in Vegas. Have a good time. That's not what he did. He did not do that. So good on Jim Phillips for fighting for his conference, and I hope that he has the best fight ahead of him, even though it might not benefit Florida State as much as I'd like. I am all for the ACC staying together and figuring it out. That's going to do it for the top 5. We're wrapping it up right now.
Make sure you keep that audio, Garrett.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I definitely will.
Because when FSU opens conference play at Stillwater in 2 years, it's going to hit like crack.
Well, you know, wait a minute. You finished by saying,
just kidding.
I hope that the ACC stays together.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mean that. I mean, look, if Florida State's in it, fine. That's not going to happen. But I hope they do, because if they don't, like, let's look at it as a college football fan. If they don't, what are we looking at? Wait, it's like Costco of college football. And I love Costco, but like everything.
Mac Rhodes will beat your ass because he loves that place.
Oh, I love Costco too. No, I'm saying like everything that you're going to buy, like you can't go to Costco and get a regular sized jar of pickles. You're buying a restaurant sized jar of pickles. Well, I don't need all those pickles. I need enough pickles for me, not enough pickles for, a whole McDonald's.
How far, honestly, did we get into this show without Florida State being mentioned today?
The entire time.
All the way to the end? Yeah.
Selfish as hell.
No, I
think we actually went like 3 hours without bringing up the symbol.
I mean, we don't really spend, like, honestly, we haven't spent a ton of time talking about realignment, like, compared to some others, like, that they're in the same avenue.
No, my point was it seemed like we have them for segments every day. Today we actually...
But even the segments have been, like, in the last couple of weeks, like, we've gone days without mentioning anything, weeks without mentioning anything
because there was nothing
realignment.
Concrete.
Right, exactly. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm just saying, like, we've talked about it starting up here recently. We've talked about it when there was absolute reason to talk about it. Like somebody makes an interesting comment, which, by the way, we didn't get to Sankey's audio, which we can save that for tomorrow.
Paul, did you break that down?
I've got some
Did you find it interesting? The way that I found it interesting?
He didn't even listen to it yet.
No, I did listen.
Is it good?
Oh yeah.
All right,
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
Greg sent that to me last night, but we'll try to peel out 3 or 4 bites for tomorrow.
Yeah, Greg Sankey absolutely not saying anything concrete about their future plans. Far from it, but I think it was displayed in this way a lot better than maybe at his opening presser when he said what he said. He said this in a more relaxed setting, and it was just interesting. His whole take on how all this realignment phase has come to be. He'll tell you, and he did in the interview, that he was like 10 years ahead of it, knew that this was coming, but even he didn't see like BYU to the Big 12. That was one that he did not see coming. But it was interesting stuff. He did an interview in Dallas that we'll break down a little bit tomorrow and just get deeper into. But yeah, we haven't really, big picture, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, we have not talked about it nearly as much as we could have, and I think that's just because we've waited on more concrete stuff. But yesterday, obviously, they're at the podium. It's ACC Media Days kickoff. You're wondering what Jim Phillips was going to say. And like we said yesterday, I think he did about as good of a job as he could do. And look, nobody's talking – I don't know. I can't say that. But, my usual national writers that I follow and the just general college football conversation, I think it's pretty quiet day 2 at ACC Media Days. So –
I thought
does that bode well? I don't know.
98% of the feedback, and I went to about 15 columnists who would cover that event, whether just the ACC or that area or national, and 95 or 98% all thought that Phillips was really strong yesterday compared to not compared to anybody. He was just really strong, and Paul brought that up. I'm proud of you to admit that.
But yeah, Paul is very much in the camp of, like, no matter what anybody says, like, Florida State's going to be in a different league in 2 years. And he and the Florida State faithful fully believe that, and you can't tell them otherwise. And, we'll see, like I said, what ends up happening. I think them being gone at some point is obviously a foregone conclusion.
I would
but
say
the timing
2 years,
of it,
but yeah.
The timing of it and where and all that still very much to be determined. And And so I think quieter media days is probably a good thing for the ACC, like I said.
What I will tell you, what I believe, and I think it's true because they wouldn't be doing this otherwise, the only way this ends for Florida State is outside of the ACC. When that is, could be 5 years from now, honestly. But
oh, God, I'm not going to sit there and put up with them for 5 years.
But
there's a Florida State guy that I cannot imagine him writing bombshell on one more headline video like that. If it lasted another 5 years, dude, the whole solar system would be detonated at this point.
Here's the thing. Filings are not bombshells like inside of a case, because you filing something just means you're handing it to the judge and them having to go, all right, let me read this.
Yeah.
It's when the judge says, you know what? That guy on this side is right. And that's the bombshell. So I think that, I do think Florida State's going to wind up outside of it. I just don't know when.
The bombshell is when there's a ruling that somebody wins outside their state when they win a road game, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to all of the those in the chat room that did not invite any of us today to join you. We'll hope everyone was sane and friendly. So just
that's your people. I mean, that's our people too. But you patrol.
No, I do. And every once in a while, Paul, like an assassin,
just swipes in,
goes in there and he starts arguing about things that are
like take somebody out real quick.
Yeah, FSU politics, things like that. Speaking of Paul, congratulations to UT football coach Jeff Banks and Danielle Thomas.
Yeah. What a segue.
Yeah,
they. We're married on Saturday. No, this is awesome.
Look, love conquers all. Your monkey bites a few trick-or-treaters, and you think you're not going to make it through that as a couple. But if you really love each other, really love each other,
you get through.
You can make it.
You get through monkeys being vicious and stuff like that.
I would love.
That was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I would love to be at a dinner party, just a dinner party where people don't know Jeff Banks and Pole Assassin, and have
Mrs. Pole Assassin.
Sorry, and have them just sitting there eating their crab puffs and pinwheels, and somebody coming up and like, "Oh, I'm Jeff, and this is my wife, whatever her real name is."
I just mentioned it. Yeah. Danielle, respectful.
Sorry. Well, I mean, she's gone forever with not wanting people to know it. So, but just to hear them say, how'd you guys meet? And hearing that story and seeing how people react to it.
People meet each other in different ways.
Yes.
In this case, it was apparently he got to know her.
Yeah, good for him.
I have no idea on the details. I know
that's where they met.
I don't know. I know how much has been made about her former occupation and about their, unorthodox pet. But beyond that, I don't know many of the details. So congrats to them on however that all came together. And
I wonder.
Good luck in the future.
I wonder if there was ever any money that was paid to the person who was bitten. Is there any kind of civil?
I would think so. Yeah.
All right, so the Pole Assassin, and otherwise known as Daniel Thomas and Jeff Banks, UT, hell of a football coach, by the way, at UT, and was at Alabama, among other places. They are happily now married. Good for them. That was a Brett McMurphy tweet. All right, thank you very much. Please click like and or subscribe if you haven't already today, and if you have subscribed, tell somebody else to. We're closing in on 55,000 very quickly, so we appreciate the growth that we have with this channel. Thanks to Garrett Ross. Thanks also to Emery Winter. Been a bad boy today in many, many ways. We've had to scold him. For Craig Smoke and Paul Catalina, we appreciate you. Everybody that's a part of this, whether it's during the live shows or as we put things up on YouTube, our channel 365 Sports. I'm David Smoke. Good night.